Chapter 1372. Long Yu's Path of the Nine Underworld had the ability to disintegrate all kinds of spatial divine characters. Even water-type absolute beginning power couldn't escape the disintegration of the Path of the Nine Underworld. This was the power that came from the essence of space. The Path of the Nine Underworld had the unique ability to disintegrate the power of spatial divine characters after fusing with the essence of space. At that moment, the Path of the Nine Underworld was unleashed, and the spatial power contained within the two gray bubbles was almost instantly disintegrated. Then, the two women unleashed their respective technique. The power of the blood-red divine runes and the starry divine runes erupted and directly broke through the two gray bubbles. When the foreign war criminal finally discovered Long Yu and turned around to attack Long Yu, Red Oriole and Moon Song were already standing beside Long Yu. "Do it!" Red Oriole and Moon Song attacked again. Blood-colored divine characters and star divine characters instantly exploded. The two women's previous attacks had been blocked by the foreign war criminal. Now, the two women's attacks were even stronger than before. Red Oriole had already awakened the 6 demonic bloodwings to the 9th level. At this moment, the 6 demonic bloodwings had transformed into 6 blood-colored blades. With an overwhelming momentum, they slashed towards the foreign war criminal. As for Moon Song, she finally unleashed an even stronger technique. She raised her hand and took out a divine absolute beginning item. It was a starry blue crescent wheel. Countless starry lines appeared in the air. Then, these lines streaked across the sky like meteors and fell towards the foreign war criminal. The techniques that the two women used were even stronger than before. Even a 5th-stage ruler might not be able to block them. However, even if the foreign war criminal couldn't block them, he could still escape. In order to prevent him from escaping, Long Yu didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and unleashed his innate mystique, Sphere of the Nine Underworld. This was a technique that he had learned not long ago. It was the mysterious 8th mystique. It was something that the Nine Underworld tablet had condensed by absorbing the shattered Nine Underworld realm. Long Yu had tried out the effects of the Sphere of the Nine Underworld. However, he had no clue as to why it would appear. In any case, if Long Yu wanted to control that foreign war criminal, the innate ability of the Ball of Nine Underworlds was the only way. Other methods like the Hand of Nine Underworlds and the 8 trigrams suppressing the heavens were completely useless now. After all, Long Yu was only a lower-level dominator, while his opponent was a 5th-level dominator. Even if it was the Ball of Nine Underworlds, it only had a little bit of the aura of the Nine Underworlds tablet, so it might have a little effect on the opponent. Under such circumstances, even the slightest impact was enough. Long Yu's main combat power still came from Red Oriole and Moon Song. At most, Long Yu could only hold them back. In fact, with his current cultivation, holding them back was already very difficult. When the Ball of Nine Underworlds appeared, a wave of Destruction Rank 9 Underworlds divine characters burst out, completely covering the foreign war criminal. The sticky Destruction Rank 9 Underworlds divine characters enveloped him. He still remembered that when Long Yu had used the Ball of Nine Underworlds to deal with a 2-star Emperor-level Ice God race foreign war criminal, he had been able to completely suppress and devour the Ball of Nine Underworld. Moreover, it had been able to strengthen the Ball of Nine Underworlds. Unfortunately, the foreign war criminal was a 5th-level dominator. If Long Yu was alone, he wouldn't be a match for the foreign war criminal. Therefore, when Long Yu used the Ball of Nine Underworlds, the sticky binding power only had a slight effect on the foreign war criminal, slowing down the circulation of power within his body by 30%. It was impossible to completely entangle and devour the non-humankind war criminal. Being able to slow down the foreign war criminal's circulation speed by 30% was already very impressive. If it were any other lower-level dominator, they wouldn't be able to do this. Let alone 30%, even 10% would be an extravagant hope for other lower-level dominators. It should be known that the foreign war criminal in front of him was a powerful existence at the fifth phase Great Ruler realm. Long Yu's other techniques had no effect on him at all. Only the 9 underworld sphere, the innate divine ability fruit, which contained a bit of the 9 underworld steel's aura, was able to slow him down by 30%. Of course, under such circumstances, even a 30% reduction in speed could be said to be a fatal negative impact on the foreign war criminal. After all, with Long Yu delaying him like this, it was impossible for the foreign war criminal to dodge Red Oriole and Moon Song's attacks. He could only face them head-on. The 6 blood-colored blades formed by the 6 demonic blood wings and the meteors formed by the stars and crescent moons landed on the foreign war criminal's slowed-down body in the blink of an eye. Terrifying power instantly erupted. The blades swept across and the meteors exploded. The foreign war criminal's gray ball of water was instantly riddled with holes. The gray divine characters that the foreign war criminal had formed in a hurry were instantly shattered. Gray liquid splattered everywhere in the dense forest. It was sticky and stinky. It was extremely disgusting. However, Red Oriole and Moon Song couldn't care less about how disgusting it was. If they didn't quickly finish off the foreign war criminal, he might have some other tricks up his sleeve. It would be terrible if they let him escape. Kill! The 6 demonic blood wings behind Red Oriole's back instantly transformed into 6 blood-colored chains. They instantly extended out and bound the foreign war criminal, rendering him completely immobile. As for Moon Song, while Red Oriole was completely restraining the foreign war criminal, the crescent moon wheel in her hand suddenly erupted with starlight. Resplendent blue starlight fell from the sky like a waterfall. 10th level awakening. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat when he saw this move. Moon Song had actually awakened the absolute beginning divine grade crescent moon wheel to the 10th level. Moreover, this was only what she had shown so far. No one knew how many levels Moon Song and the crescent moon wheel had awakened to. Perhaps it was only the 10th level, but it could also be the 11th level. Of course, she probably hadn't reached the 12th level yet. After all, the crescent moon wheel hadn't developed its own consciousness yet. This was something Long Yu could still sense. The crescent moon wheel, which had awakened at the 10th level, gathered the power of the star divine characters and transformed into a waterfall of starlight. It fell from the sky and landed on the foreign war criminal who was restrained by Red Oriole's blood-colored chains. The starlight waterfall had an extremely powerful purifying power. It was especially effective against shadow-type divine characters. Coincidentally, the foreign war criminal's divine characters were of the shadow type. The power of the gray divine characters was of the shadow type and was highly corrosive. Now that the starlight waterfall had completely targeted it, it couldn't resist at all. Blue starlight erupted from Long Yu's eyes. The power of the stars condensed into a waterfall that rushed down, shattering the foreign war criminal's body and quickly disintegrating it. Seeing that it couldn't hold on any longer, the foreign war criminal's body suddenly bulged. Then, countless gray tentacles extended from his body. These gray tentacles surged toward the starlight waterfall above him. Then, they were completely destroyed by the power of the star divine characters. These gray tentacles are its innate theurgy fruit. This guy has reached a dead end. He's even sacrificing the innate theurgy fruit. It looks like we'll have to fight him to the death. Long Yu thought to himself. If he could see that, Red Oriole and Moon Song could as well. Moon Song's starlight waterfall could have completely annihilated the foreign war criminal and killed him. However, the foreign war criminal was willing to sacrifice an innate theurgy fruit rather than die like this. Although the destruction of the innate theurgy fruit would greatly affect his strength, he had no other choice. The countless gray tentacles were the main body of the innate theurgy fruit. They had been sent out of the small world to resist the waterfall of starlight. In this way, the main body of the innate theurgy fruit was constantly being destroyed, but the foreign war criminal had managed to preserve his life with great difficulty. Just preserving his life wasn't much use. If the foreign war criminal didn't think of something, he would definitely die in the end. So, since he had already fought once, he would definitely fight a second time. Before Moon Song and Red Oriole could react, gray skeletons once again emerged from the foreign war criminal's body. These gray skeletons were the main body of the other innate theurgy fruit. The gray skeleton was activated and directly swept towards Long Yu and the other two. The terrifying and dense aura caused the three of them to be intimidated to a certain extent. He's actually using the main body of the innate theurgy fruit to fight. This guy seems to be going all out. Be careful. If we destroy the innate theurgy fruit, it'll be severely injured. Red Oriole and Moon Song were extremely calm. They knew that since the foreign war criminal was going all out, there was no need to fight him head-on. Breaking his limbs first would make things much easier. For the foreign war criminal, the innate theurgy fruit was equivalent to 4 limbs. One of the innate theurgy fruits had already been destroyed by the waterfall of starlight. Although there were still some remnants left, they weren't far from being completely destroyed. Now that the foreign war criminal was using the main body of the innate theurgy fruit to attack, it was much easier for everyone to deal with. Of course, it was also much more dangerous. After all, the power of the main body of the innate theurgy fruit was much stronger than just using the innate theurgy fruit. At this moment, the gray skeleton's destructive power had already reached the level of a 6th-stage sovereign. Even Red Oriole and Moon Song wouldn't be able to escape unscathed if they were swept by the gray skeletons, let alone Long Yu. Long Yu didn't dare to be careless when facing the violent foreign war criminal. He immediately retreated and activated the Book of Shadows, turning into nothingness and hiding far away. Long Yu really couldn't interfere in a head-on battle of this level. Even restraining the foreign war criminal was very dangerous. He had no choice but to act cautiously and ensure his own safety before acting. As for the gray skeletons, he would leave them to Red Oriole and Moon Song to deal with. Chapter 1373. Long Yu had retreated far away, but he was constantly paying attention to the situation on the battlefield. If there was anything he could do to help, he would immediately take action. Meanwhile, Moon Song and Red Oriole were fighting the foreign war criminal head-on. Countless gray skeletons kept breaking out of the foreign war criminal's pocket world, sweeping towards the two women. The two women each used their own method. Blood divine runes turned into blades, and starry divine runes formed a storm, continuously bombarding the gray skeletons to pieces. However, the innate fruit of magic's main body was extremely large. There was no telling how many gray skeletons there were on this side, and the countless gray tentacles that were fighting against the starry waterfall were also continuously bombarding them. It would be difficult to completely shatter the foreign war criminal's main body in a short amount of time. Even so, the two sides had only clashed for a few breaths of time before a portion of the innate fruit of magic's main body was destroyed, inflicting severe damage on the foreign war criminal. This greatly weakened the foreign war criminal's battle prowess. However, he was still fighting with the innate fruit of magic's main body, and his cultivation was much higher than Red Oriole's and Moon Song's. At this moment, the two women were feeling quite strained. Moon Song and Red Oriole's positions were constantly being pushed back by the foreign war criminal's continuous bombardment of gray skeletons. Of course, the two women couldn't accompany the foreign war criminal in his madness. Red Oriole's previous innate fruit of magic's main body had already been damaged, and it had yet to fully recover. Unless absolutely necessary, she definitely wouldn't use the innate fruit of magic's main body to fight. At this moment, the foreign war criminal was in a completely berserk state. Gray tentacles and gray skeletons were all around him, and the two innate fruit of magic's main bodies had been thrown out at the same time. Let alone Long Yu, even the two women couldn't get close to him at all. We can't drag this out for too long. Red Oriole, I'm going to attack now. Cover me for a bit. Moon Song's expression finally froze. Killing intent began to radiate from her eyes, as if she had finally decided to use an even more powerful killing move. After all, if things continued like this, the situation might change if they dragged things out for too long. She had to get rid of the foreign war criminal before the situation changed. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome. Upon hearing this, Red Oriole nodded. The 6 demonic blood wings on her back unfurled. Blood-colored divine characters instantly filled the air, transforming into a blood-colored mist that rumbled forward, enveloping the entire space around them and enveloping the foreign war criminal within. In the blood-red mist emitted by the 6 demon blood wings, the outsider war criminal's mind began to become a little scattered. This was a type of mental attack, but the effect was not strong. At most, it would only have a slight mental interference effect. However, one of the advantages of this move was that the effect of mental interference would not be weakened even when facing an existence with a higher cultivation base than the user. Therefore, at this moment, the foreign war criminal's mind was disrupted and he was no longer as focused as before. This was the perfect opportunity for Moon Song to erupt. Starlight flowed all over Moon Song's body, and the crescent wheel in her hand instantly erupted with dazzling starlight. Then, it transformed into a gigantic astral sword aura that tore through the air. The foreign war criminal did not have much time to react. The gigantic astral sword aura instantly tore through the air and slashed at the gray water ball's flesh, completely shattering all the gray bones along the way. Starlight Sky Slash. This was the awakening skill that Moon Song had awakened to the 11th level of the crescent wheel. The moment she attacked, its power was earth-shattering and imposing. The foreign war criminal could not even resist for a moment. In that instant, Long Yu felt a little fascinated. He could not help but want to awaken a divine-grade absolute beginning skill. However, he also knew that to awaken the Netherworld Dragon Blade, he needed more than just a thought. He needed more time and more cultivation resources to achieve it. Even someone as powerful as Moon Song would need at least a year or two to awaken the Netherworld Dragon Blade to the 11th level. This kind of thing could not be done quickly. However, Long Yu's Netherworld Dragon Blade already had its own consciousness. As long as it awakened to the 7th or 8th level, its power would be comparable to Moon Song's Crescent Wheel awakening to the 11th level. Therefore, Long Yu was quite confident in himself. After all, not everyone had the chance to encounter the absolute beginning furnace and have the ability to put their own combat weapons into it for smelting. To put it bluntly, Long Yu's Netherworld Dragon Blade was considered one of the strongest divine-grade absolute beginning weapons in the entire human clan and monster clan's territories. It was in existence at the peak of the absolute beginning realm. The starlight sky breaking slashed down with extreme speed, landing on the prisoner's body. The terrifying starlight energy instantly tore apart the prisoner's already injured body, and the starlight sword light directly pierced through the prisoner's body, causing the gray sticky liquid to splash in all directions. Puddles of corrosive liquid corroded the surrounding flora and giant trees, creating a messy scene. However, Moon Song did not let her guard down at all. That was because the foreign war criminal's life force was extremely tenacious. Even though his body was cut into pieces, he did not lose his life. These foreign races are too strange. I wonder where the core of their power is, Moon Song murmured with a slight frown. Leave it to me. At that moment, Long Yu realized what Moon Song was worrying about. He had a way to solve the problem, so he immediately appeared and brandished the unending high-grade combat weapon, Draconic Sacred Spring. The Draconic Sacred Spring transformed into a light blue void slicing blade that instantly appeared in the foreign war criminal's body. Then, it naturally found the core of his power. This was the best part of Long Yu's void slicing strike. It could automatically find the enemy's weak point and launch a targeted attack. When Moon Song saw where the 2 light blue void slicing blades had appeared, she immediately seized the opportunity. With a gentle wave of her hand, 2 beams of white divine runes condensed in her hands. Grade 1 God Formation. When Long Yu saw this, he immediately recognized his opponent's technique. It was rumored that a Grade 1 God Formation was a prerequisite for one to become a demigod. If one did not comprehend a Grade 1 God Formation, it was almost impossible for one to become a demigod. Fortunately, Long Yu had obtained a lot of cultivation methods for Grade 1 God Formations from the headquarters of the army on the battlefield. He only needed to pick one or two of them to practice. In addition, the power of a Grade 1 God Formation was also extremely shocking. Take Moon Song for example. Although the 2 beams of white divine runes were not as powerful as her awakening skill, Starry Sky Slicing, it was still enough to kill the foreign war criminal. These 2 moves allowed Long Yu and Red Oriole to see just how powerful Moon Song was. If Red Oriole were to fight against Moon Song now, she would definitely not be a match for her. After all, Moon Song had been in the Demigod Academy for a year and had more training resources than her. Seeing Moon Song, Red Oriole, and Long Yu felt that they had not come to the Demigod Academy for nothing. They believed that Moon Song couldn't have been so powerful when she had just entered the Demigod Academy last year. She had become so powerful in just a year. It was obvious how much training in the Demigod Academy could improve a cultivator. As the power of the Grade 1 God Formation exploded, 2 beams of white divine runes surged out and hit the foreign war criminal's power core. The enemy's power core immediately exploded. Just like the dantian of a human or the demon core of a demon, once the foreign war criminal's power core was destroyed, it meant that all of his cultivation would be destroyed. There was no need to say more about what would happen if that happened. There was no way Moon Song would let this guy go. No matter what, the foreign war criminals were irreconcilable conflicts between the human race and the demon race. Killing the foreign races was a matter of course. After the enemy's power core was destroyed, the foreign war criminal could not even self-destruct. Moon Song and Red Oriole attacked together. Blood-colored divine runes and starry divine runes exploded, directly blowing the foreign war criminal into smithereens. The entire scene was a mess. There had been a dense forest around them, but now it had been razed to the ground. There were even many deep pits in the ground, showing how intense the battle had been. A battle at the level of a great ruler could easily cause great destruction on an ordinary planet. For example, they were fighting fiercely in the wilderness right now, but they had already destroyed a radius of over 5 kilometers. It was a scene of devastation after a great battle. It was a ghastly sight. This was still relatively light. If they had deliberately wanted to destroy a planet, great sovereigns could easily destroy the entire forest. It's not our turn to rest yet. We have to clear out those foreign glows. Let's split up. If anyone is in danger, call for help immediately, Moon Song said in a low voice. Then, she nodded at Long Yu and Red Oriole. Of course, the 2 of them knew that these were the aftermath that had to be dealt with. They agreed and then split up into 3 different directions. If they encountered any foreign glows, they would immediately destroy them. These were the descendants left behind by the foreign clan war criminals. If they were not cleaned up, they might cause great trouble to the Dragon Elixir Star. As long as the 3 of them were careful, this situation could be avoided. Before they separated, Long Yu had cast the light of equalization on the 3 of them, increasing their spiritual sense perception by 10 times. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the 3 of them to miss a single spot of the foreign tribe's fluorescent light. Long Yu moved alone. Whenever he saw a foreign glowing light, he would immediately condense Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine Runes and bombard it with 9 Nether Dragon Breath. This was still one of his more destructive methods. It consumed less energy, so he could use it continuously without worrying about running out of energy. One after another, the foreign glows were cleaned up by the 3 of them. Nothing was left. About 4 to 6 hours later, the 3 of them finally regrouped at the place where they killed the foreign war criminal. This training mission was more or less completed. Chapter 1374. The trial issued by the Demigods College this time was not too difficult, except that it demanded a high deduction ability of the recipients. If it weren't for Red Oriole, it would have been very difficult to find the alien war criminals on the Dragon Elixir planet from too far away. The final battle was not too difficult. If an ordinary seven-phase great ruler from the outside world had come, they would have been able to kill the alien war criminals easily. Just like that, each of them had obtained 1,000,000 Legion merit points from the battlefield so easily. The ease with which these Legion merit points came made Long Yu feel a little emotional. Previously, on the battlefield of the Ice God clan against the alien race, the team he followed had gone through a lot of hardships and finally obtained 1,000,000 battlefield merit. Now that he was in the Demigod Academy, it was actually so easy to obtain 1,000,000 battlefield merit. Of course, it was not easy to say that it was, but in comparison, the speed of obtaining battlefield merits in the Demigod Academy was much faster than participating in the battle of the alien race. The Demigod Academy was an existence that trained peak combat power in the first place. It was completely normal to have such benefits. Otherwise, how could they train the top combat power of the human race and the demon race? Now, as Long Yu and the others went back and handed over the experience seal, they would be able to obtain 3,000,000 battlefield merit. As for how the three of them would split it among themselves, it was up to them. Originally, Moon Song did not want to split it equally with Long Yu. After all, Long Yu's martial arts realm was too weak. If he was just a bystander during the trial, she would definitely not be willing to give the 1,000,000 battlefield merits to Long Yu. But after the battle just now, she saw Long Yu's usefulness. Not to mention anything else, when the alien war criminals wanted to escape, it was Long Yu who activated the Dragon Bone Tower and created a void domain to stop them. Otherwise, the situation might have become even more complicated. Although Moon Song was the main force in the process of dealing with the alien war criminals, Red Oriole and Long Yu were also indispensable. Even if they did not contribute as much as Moon Song could not be bothered to argue with them. In any case, Moon Song had seen Long Yu's astonishing potential in this battle. As for Red Oriole, she believed that she wouldn't be any weaker than her after a year in the Demigod Academy. Since they were going to be comrades in arms in the future, there was no need to split the contribution points on the battlefield so clearly. It was best to split them evenly. However, Long Yu did not want to return to the Demigods College right now, because he had finally come to the edge of the human territory and was close to the extraterrestrial space. He wouldn't be at ease until he took care of some things. The first matter was regarding Long Yu's father, Long Zitian. He had to find a way to meet him. The second thing was to invite Little White's old friend to the Void Galaxy. He was a powerful weaponsmith, and Long Yu had always kept this matter in mind. Our current location is on the Dragon Pill Star. It's very close to the address on the jade slip that Xiao Bai gave us. Long Yu said to Red Oriole. When Little White had introduced the weaponsmith to Long Yu, she had given him a jade slip. The jade slip recorded a few of the weaponsmith's residences. Little White didn't know where the weaponsmith was, but he would be near those places. One of those places was near the Dragon Pill Star, the Phoenix Pill Star. The Dragon Pill Star and the Phoenix Pill Star could be said to be a pair. They revolved around each other and were known as the Dragon and Phoenix Twin Stars. It was one of the rarer twin star systems in the Qing Luo galaxy. The biggest characteristic of the twin stars was that they revolved around each other and could produce some special energy, forming a special region between the two stars. Ordinary cultivators weren't able to step into that special area because it was filled with chaotic energy flows. Even a seventh-stage sovereign realm expert had to be careful at all times when stepping into that area. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would cause them to be drowned and devoured by the chaotic energy flows. As for the weaponsmith senior that Little White had recommended, one of his residences was in the middle of that turbulent energy. It was at the center of the Dragon Pill Star and the Phoenix Pill Star. As the twin stars revolved around each other, they also slowly revolved around a divine rune origin in the distance. Similarly, the divine rune origin brought light and energy to the twin stars. The turbulent energy between the twin stars was extremely difficult for ordinary people to pass through. However, it wasn't a problem for Long Yu. After all, he had the void nether dragon blade. He could even pass through the turbulent energy of the Genesis 5 elements, let alone the turbulent energy between the twin stars. Long Yu still remembered that Little White had said that the weaponsmith senior was an old man with a strange temper. It was best to visit him alone, and he also needed Little White's jade slip to do so. This put Long Yu in a difficult position. If they wanted to return to the Demigod College, they could only do so through the Seal of Experience. However, there was only one Seal of Experience. In other words, the three of them had to go back together, or one of them had to stay in the outside world. Until now, Long Yu didn't know where the headquarters of the Demigod College was. Even Moonsong, who had been in the Demigod College for a year, didn't know. In any case, there was no other way to return to the Demigod College other than using the Seal of Experience. From this, it could be seen that the Demigod College was probably not in the human or demon territories. It was highly possible that it existed in a place similar to the Void Galaxy. Who knew? How about Red Oriole, Moonsong, you two go back to the Demigod College first. You can accept another mission. After you finish the next mission, you can bring me back with you. How about that? Long Yu thought for a moment, then said to the two girls. On one hand, Long Yu had to go alone to find the weaponsmith senior. On the other hand, when he went to find his father, Long Zitian, it was best not to involve anyone else. After all, it was his own private matter. It was fine for Red Oriole, but it would be bad if Moonsong was involved. Therefore, after thinking for a moment, Long Yu made this suggestion. He let the two girls return to the Demigod College first. When they finished their next mission, they could come and pick up Long Yu and go back together. Calculating the time, if everything went smoothly, Long Yu would be able to complete both of his tasks. Of course, success or failure was not guaranteed. When the time came, no matter who finished their tasks first, they could wait for the other party. This was not bad. Long Yu felt that it would be too much of a waste of their time if he were to make the two girls wait for him now. However, after they had completed their second training, they should be able to synchronize their time. Hearing Long Yu's suggestion, Red Oriole was a little unhappy, but she didn't say anything. She understood that Long Yu's suggestion was the best. In any case, Long Yu could handle the rest of the matters by himself. That way, when she was free, she could complete more missions and obtain more battlefield merits, which could be exchanged for more cultivation resources. Right, I'll give these 2 bottles of divine wine to you first. Long Yu handed over 5 bottles of divine wine from his pocket world to Red Oriole. There were a total of 5 bottles, and he gave 2 to Red Oriole. This should be enough for the time being. After all, each bottle of divine wine took effect for quite a long time. If it wasn't enough, he could talk about it later. In any case, this divine wine cost 4 million battlefield merits, and he could exchange for more when he had enough missions. However, Long Yu hadn't tried the effects of the divine wine yet. When things were more or less done here, he could drink a bottle and try it out. He wanted to see how much faster it could help him comprehend the various powers. He could feel that after fusing the metal-type Holy Spirit source into his small world, he was able to continuously and automatically comprehend the metal-type primordial power. At this rate, in another half a month or so, he would be able to comprehend 10% of metal-type primordial power. As long as he could comprehend 10%, the effects would be very good. It would increase the speed at which he comprehended the Protext Grade 9 Nether Divine Text, and it would also increase the power of his various techniques by 10%. After all, metal-type primordial power was the foundation of the 9 Nether Divine Text. No matter what grade the 9 Nether Divine Text was, It was derived from metal-type primordial power. Comprehending metal-type primordial power was still relatively important. For Long Yu, the divine wine was mainly used to comprehend the protext grade 9 nether divine text. Right now, he had comprehended 30%. It had to be said that every 10% he comprehended from the protext grade 9 nether divine text would double his strength, which had an excellent effect on improving his strength. In that case, Red Oriole and I will be going back first. We'll try to bring our next training nearby. That way we'll be able to meet up with you as soon as possible, Moonsong said to Long Yu with a smile. All right, I'll be troubling you. Sorry to trouble you. Long Yu nodded, his impression of Moonsong growing even more favorable. This girl treated people well. She didn't look down on him and Red Oriole just because her cultivation was higher than his and Red Oriole's. In reality, if it were anyone else, Long Yu would most likely be quite disgusted that he was doing his personal business during the training. However, Moonsong didn't feel any disgust. Instead, she expressed understanding of his actions. Then we'll be going back first. The reward for this training, the 1 million battlefield army merit points, will be given to Red Oriole. If you don't come back, we won't be able to give you the battlefield army merit points, Moonsong said. Then we'll be going back first. It'll be the same for Red Oriole. Long Yu nodded with a smile. Be careful then, Red Oriole said to Long Yu, her tone filled with concern. Ever since she had gotten together with Long Yu, she hadn't been separated from him for too long. However, this time, the two of them might be separated for a little longer. After all, these two matters for Long Yu might not be settled so quickly, and on Red Oriole's side, the next training might not be as smooth. Chapter 1375. Then, Red Oriole and Moonsong activated the Mark of Experience and returned to the Demigod Academy. Long Yu would handle the rest of the matters by himself. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that after he got together with Red Oriole, the two of them had indeed been separated less. Now that he was suddenly alone again, he was not used to it. However, he did not think too much about it. Instead, he immediately shifted his attention to what he was about to do. The senior weaponsmith that Little White recommended was known as the Heaven Fire Doyen. His whereabouts were erratic. If not for the few residences that Little White had provided, basically no one would be able to find him deliberately. Long Yu now had Little White's recommendation jade slip, and he happened to be near the Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star. He could go and look for him. Perhaps he was in the power vortex of the Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star. Little White did not provide too much information about the Heaven Fire Doyen. She only mentioned that the Heaven Fire Doyen had a strange temper. Little White had also explained that she definitely could not tell Long Yu too much about the Heaven Fire Doyen, because that would make Long Yu be prepared when he went to meet the Heaven Fire Doyen. According to the Heaven Fire Doyen's strange temper, once he discovered that Long Yu was making preparations against him, the matter would definitely be ruined. Therefore, Little White simply did not say anything and let Long Yu do whatever he wanted after meeting the Heaven Fire Doyen. That way, the chances of success would be higher. After the two girls left, Long Yu entered the internal space of the Void Nether Dragon Blade. Then, he asked Little Void to leave the ground of the Dragon Pill Star and fly into the sky. He turned his head to look at the Dragon Elixir Star one last time. He recalled the expedition just now. The alien clan war criminals were finally cleaned up. All the alien clan fluorescent lights were also cleaned up. This expedition could be considered to have been completed perfectly. If all the experiences are like this, then the experiences in the Demigod College are rather simple. However, this is clearly one of the simpler ones. I hope that Moonsong and Red Oriole will not have any accidents in the following experiences. As Long Yu thought to himself, the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade had already flown away from the Dragon Elixir planet and into the sky. The Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star maintained a distance of more than 10 million kilometers from each other. The turbulent energy flows of the two stars condensed between the two stars, and the entire area was 100 kilometers wide. Normally, no one would come to this chaotic flow of energy, because if they weren't careful, even a seventh-phase dominator could lose his life here. Long Yu had nothing to fear. After traveling through the void a few times, he and Little Sue arrived in front of the turbulent flow of energy from the two stars. The entire turbulent flow of energy was born from the constant rotation of the Dragon and Phoenix stars. Like a whirlpool, it appeared in this part of the void. The intensity of its power was not far from the absolute beginning 5 elements storm on both sides of the spacetime corridor. For Long Yu, this was not a problem at all. I wonder if Elder Skyfire is here. As Long Yu thought to himself, he let the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade enter the power storm. Very soon, he discovered that the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade was not affected by the power storm at all, and he finally heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of an absolute beginning divine grade that had been smelted by the absolute beginning furnace, this Nether Spirit Dragon Blade was definitely one of the most precious items on Long Yu. After entering the power storm, the speed of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade's advancement slowed down. After all, this could be said to be Elder Skyfire's territory. Nobody knew if there were any restrictions or arrays here. According to Little White, apart from being a top-notch weaponsmith, the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade also had extremely high attainments in setting up arrays. This power storm was one of Elder Skyfire's residences. Long Yu did not believe that there were no arrays here. However, the entire power storm was enough to prevent most people from disturbing Elder Skyfire. Hence, if Elder Skyfire had set up arrays here, they would definitely be special arrays. To pass through these special arrays, one definitely did not need absolute combat power. It did not mean that one had to be a 7th-phase great ruler to pass through. It was definitely not. If that was the case, Elder Skyfire would not have chosen to stay in this power storm. Therefore, through his guesses, Long Yu knew that there must be some kind of special spirit formation. As for what kind of special spirit formation it was, he didn't know, but he wanted to see it for himself. Elder Skyfire's attainments in arrays are second to none in the human race and the demon race. Although he is not number 1, he is at least in the top rank. Long Yu recalled what Little White had told him. He was constantly vigilant of his surroundings. Once any arrays were triggered by the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade, he would be able to react immediately. The Nether Spirit Dragon Blade turned into a blue flowing light and traversed through the power storm as though it was walking on flat ground. It did not encounter any obstruction. With the ability of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade, the power storm did not affect it much. As he went deeper, Long Yu gradually felt the special aura around him. Although the power storm did not change in intensity, the pressure he felt from the surroundings was getting stronger. Gradually, Long Yu felt a fog floating around him. It even pulled him out of the inner space of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade and threw him into an extremely special space. The sudden appearance of this dense fog caused Long Yu to immediately become cautious. He knew that this must have triggered one of the spirit arrays that the Heaven Fire Doyen had set up. The fog contains mental power. This is the power of the primordial 5 elements of the wood element. I haven't had much contact with this before. Luckily, the power of the primordial 5 elements of the wood element isn't particularly powerful. Elder Skyfire should not have fully comprehended it. Long Yu thought to himself and then pulled himself together. Now, he was equivalent to being trapped in this array. He had to find the array eye and destroy it before he could leave this place. Looking around, it was a vast expanse of whiteness. The primordial 5 elements of the wood element had turned into a fog that shrouded his entire body. All of a sudden, Long Yu felt as if something was moving within the fog. He immediately became even more vigilant. To his left, there seemed to be something that was about to come out. "Come out!" Long Yu shouted. Then, he saw a familiar figure slowly appear from the fog on his left. When he saw this figure, Long Yu could not help but be stunned. That figure was actually Red Oriole. Dressed in red, she was slim and graceful. Of course, Long Yu was very familiar with this figure. At this moment, this Red Oriole's face was slightly red, as though she was a little pure and innocent. She slowly approached Long Yu. Long Yu frowned slightly. First of all, this could not be the real Red Oriole. After all, Red Oriole and Moon Song had already left this place. He had seen them return to the Demigod College through the experience seal with his own eyes. Even if she had accepted the next experience mission, it was impossible for her to happen to be nearby, and it was even more impossible for her to run into this energy storm to affect Long Yu. In this way, it could be deduced that the figure of Red Oriole in front of him was completely an illusion. Since it was an illusion, Long Yu had to determine what to do next. Should he directly destroy it, or should he deal with it in another way? There are many different types of mental illusion arrays, and the ways to deal with them are also very different. I wonder how I should deal with this mental illusion array. As Long Yu thought to himself, he watched as the figure of Red Oriole approached him. He could even smell the faint fragrance from her body. That familiar smell made Long Yu's heart move, and it actually evoked a trace of desire in him. This situation caused Long Yu's heart to become even more vigilant. From the looks of it, this mental formation was not only capable of producing images. As the figure of Red Oriole got closer and closer, her beautiful smile became more and more like a real existence. This made Long Yu know that he definitely could not let her continue to get closer. Otherwise, under the influence of this mental illusion array, he, Long Yu, might really die here. However, how to deal with this illusion of Red Oriole left Long Yu in a difficult position. That was because he recalled what Little White had said about Heaven Fire Doyen's eccentric temperament. However, this mental illusion spirit array did not affect Long Yu's mental state much. Hence, if it was simply to shatter these illusions, Heaven Fire Doyen would definitely not set up such a simple spirit array. In that case, how to deal with Red Oriole's illusion became the biggest problem. Time was of the essence. As the figure continued to approach, Long Yu tried to retreat. He discovered that this way, the figure of the figure gradually became indistinct, as if it was about to disappear from Long Yu's eyes. No, I can't retreat either. Otherwise, this illusion array will be too simple. Long Yu quickly stopped in his tracks and once again moved forward, facing the illusion of the Red Oriole. The other party gradually became clearer, and a faint fragrance assailed his nostrils once again. This time, the Red Oriole seemed to have become even more real than before. Why are you running? Hurry up and come over. The illusion of Red Oriole rebuked. Her eyes were seductive, and her every movement tugged at one's heartstrings. An indescribable feeling immediately filled Long Yu's heart. His mind was immediately affected, and the line of defense in his mind seemed to collapse in an instant. Heaven Fire Doyen's mental illusion array wasn't a joke. With Long Yu's abilities, he would be affected by it in a matter of minutes and be completely trapped in the illusion. Would attribute primordial power was a domain that Long Yu was completely unfamiliar with. At this moment, the effects of the illusion array were activated, and Long Yu was instantly pulled into the illusion. Red Oriole's illusion had already arrived beside Long Yu. She raised her hand gently, and her eyes were like water, as if she was about to completely enchant him. However, right at this moment, Long Yu suddenly quivered and sobered up. That was because he discovered a flaw in his plan. This was Red Oriole's spiritual illusion. Her left wrist was as smooth as jade and as white as snow. However, Long Yu was very familiar with Red Oriole. Of course, he knew that there was a pair of blood-colored wings on her left wrist. This was a mark that belonged to the blood demon race, a mark that they would wear for the rest of their lives. It was also this tiny detail that allowed Long Yu to break free from the influence of the mental illusion array. However, when he discovered the flaw, the illusion matrix collapsed on its own. This was the matrix that the Heaven Fire Doyen had set up. What it tested was nothing more than the understanding of the person who was trying to break the matrix about the people around him. After going through the 2 tests of Red Oriole and Consort Yu, Long Yu had some understanding of the mental illusion array formation's operation mode. Next, it was much easier to break the array formation. Next, Shi Yenwu appeared, then Liao Lele, then Yen Huan, Mo Huan, then Man Xian, then Chi Hu. One by one, Long Yu's friends and brothers appeared in the illusion array formation. However, he saw through them one by one and found their flaws. After 8 consecutive times, the entire mental illusion array formation finally collapsed. Long Yu reappeared in the internal space of his nether dragon blade, his entire body covered in cold sweat. Although it was just a mental illusion array formation, the scene within it was still too realistic. Long Yu almost could not recover. Wave after wave of illusions attacked him, and he was extremely mentally exhausted. It seems that, if there's a chance, I should strive to comprehend the wood primordial power and strengthen my mental strength. It should also improve the effect of the body of pure world. Long Yu now knew how high the level of the Heaven Fire Doyen was. It should be known that he had cultivated the martial arts secret technique of the 6th level of the body of pure world. Ordinary mental attacks would not be able to pull him in at all. They would not even be able to affect him at all. However, the mental illusion array formation just now had completely dragged Long Yu into it. His mind was unable to extricate itself. It could be imagined that if it was not for the body of pure world that had helped Long Yu block a part of the attack, the power of the array formation would be even stronger and the impact on Long Yu would be even greater. Even Long Yu might not be able to successfully break this array formation. In any case, Long Yu finally escaped from the mental illusion array formation. He sorted out his emotions and continued to move forward. His current position was still quite far from the center of the twin star turbulence. The residence of the Heaven Fire Doyen in the twin star turbulence was in the most central position. Along the way, he would probably have to pass through several arrays. The arrays that I encounter along the way will definitely get stronger and stronger. Fortunately, I have the body of pure world. I don't know if I can withstand it. However, if even I can't withstand it, it's even more impossible for others. Long Yu was still very confident in his own ability. Then, he let the nether dragon blade continue to move forward. Next, what Long Yu encountered was still an illusion array formation. There was no place where he needed to face it head-on. This was also what Long Yu had guessed from the beginning. The surrounding twin star turbulence had already blocked most people with insufficient cultivation from entering. These illusion arrays did not require cultivation at all. The second array formation was also a mental illusion array formation. Its strength was similar to the first array formation. Long Yu could not discover the array formation along the way in advance, so he barged in again. The illusion of this spirit formation was the complete opposite of the first spirit formation. The figures that appeared in the first array formation were all Long Yu's relatives and friends. The figures in the second array formation were the opponents that he had killed on the road of martial arts. Moreover, there were a lot of them. They were not alone. The murderous intent filled the entire space, which made Long Yu's heart beat faster. From the Tang Kingdom on the Heavenly Mandate Floating Island to the North Sea Kingdom, to the Heavenly Mandate Sacred Institute in the Heavenly Gang Realm, and then to the Azura County, the North Snow Dynasty, the sacred city of the 5 emperors. Along the way, the number of opponents Long Yu had killed, be it the human race, the demon race or the alien race, had already reached an uncountable number. At this moment, what appeared in front of him were the vengeful spirits of these creatures, constantly approaching Long Yu. The powerful wood primordial power from the mental illusion array dragged Long Yu into it. Even with the body of pure world blocking it, it only weakened the influence that Long Yu's spirit suffered a little. It only reduced the power of the entire array by about 10 to 20%. Countless vengeful spirits came for his life. Long Yu felt as if he had fallen into hell. The murderous intent filled his surroundings, causing his eyes to gradually turn red. Among the vengeful spirits around him, there were some powerful existences, such as the group of White Feather Demon Clan, Golden Dragon Demon Clan, and other experts in the Sovereign's secret realm who were killed by the explosion of the Nine Abyss prison tablet. Among them, there were many existences in the Great Sovereign Realm. At this moment, they became the strongest among the vengeful spirits around Long Yu. These vengeful spirits brought the most pressure to Long Yu. He even felt a little breathless. He knew that it was an illusion, but there was no way to break it. These guys, they all died in my hands. Even if they appear again, I can still kill them. Long Yu's eyes were red, and he resisted the urge to attack. He knew that everything in front of him was an illusion. If he really attacked and wanted to kill these vengeful spirits, the situation would definitely become irreversible. The mental illusion array of the Heaven Fire Doyen did not require the challenger to attack. Long Yu was now sure of this. Calm down, calm down. Long Yu's heart gradually calmed down, and he allowed the murderous intent to affect him. He clenched his fists, and didn't use any of the energy in his body. As the vengeful spirits got closer, the pressure on Long Yu increased. Soon, a few vengeful spirits reached Long Yu's side, and they flew towards Long Yu. Their cries were endless, and the murderous intent around Long Yu grew stronger. If it was someone with a weak mind, they would really attack in such a situation. After all, attacking in the face of danger was the first reaction of any cultivator. However, with the help of the Pure World Physique, Long Yu was able to slightly reduce the impact of the mental illusion array. Thus, he was able to maintain his rationality. Even though the vengeful spirits were about to stick to Long Yu's face, Long Yu clenched his fists and didn't waver at all. Even though his forehead was dripping with sweat, he still managed to control himself. As the vengeful spirits surged towards Long Yu like a tidal wave, Long Yu was as still as a mountain. Finally, some vengeful spirits started to collide with Long Yu's body. Boundless murderous intent and murderous intent instantly filled his mind. Under the influence of the vengeful spirits' murderous intent and murderous intent, Long Yu almost couldn't help but attack. However, he ultimately clenched his teeth and held on. This was because when these vengeful spirits collided with Long Yu's body, they didn't cause him any harm. This further proved that Long Yu's guess was correct. In order to break this mental illusion array, he didn't need to attack at all. He just needed to hold on to his heart. The more Long Yu thought of this, the calmer his mood became. Even the vengeful spirits around him gradually turned a blind eye to them. He let them collide with his body and then disappear. Gradually, the vengeful spirits in the surroundings started to dissipate. Following Long Yu's imposing aura, which was as immovable as a mountain, all of the vengeful spirits dissipated on their own, no longer able to affect Long Yu in the slightest. Originally, these guys were killed by Long Yu in the past. Now that he saw them again, Long Yu wouldn't have any emotions. Calmness had always been Long Yu's attitude towards the dead. If it wasn't for the influence of the wood attribute power in the mental illusion array, this round would have been much easier for Long Yu. He wouldn't even have been affected in the slightest. When the vengeful spirits dissipated, the entire mental illusion array was broken. Long Yu didn't stop and continued to walk towards the center of the binary star turbulence. Chapter 1377. After breaking through the two illusions, Long Yu continued forward. Soon, the nether void dragon blade passed through the turbulent flow of the two stars. After traveling for more than 10 kilometers, Long Yu felt that he was surrounded by the wood element primordial power again. This made him vigilant again. The wood element primordial power was a tyrannical power of the mind. The source of all illusions and mental power was the wood element primordial power. Therefore, Long Yu guessed that he had entered a new illusion array. Just as he expected, a white-clothed figure appeared in front of him faintly. Long Yu's figure also gradually separated from the nether void dragon blade's inner space and came to a place filled with white fog. The white-clothed figure appeared in front of Long Yu, causing Long Yu to frown slightly. This was because he didn't recognize the white-clothed figure. Whether it was an enemy or a friend, Long Yu was sure that he had never seen this guy before. Although the two sides were still very far away and he couldn't see the other party's appearance clearly, Long Yu could use the balanced control secret art to strengthen his spiritual awareness and sense the other party's appearance and aura. This appearance, it looks a little familiar, but I have never seen it before. Could it be a friend or an enemy's relative? Long Yu frowned slightly. He pondered for a moment in his mind and suddenly realized something. He couldn't help but be startled. No wonder it looked a little familiar. The face of the white-clothed figure looked very similar to Long Yu's. As for the white-clothed figure's aura, it was the aura of some kind of thunder divine character. It was also derived from the metal element primordial power. He could feel the tyrannical power of the white-clothed figure. The martial Tao realm of a seventh-phase great dominator. Long Yu's heart moved. He couldn't help but guess the identity of the other party. Could it be his father, Long Zai-Tian, whom he had never met before? First of all, the face of the white-clothed figure looked very similar to Long Yu. They were at least 70% similar. Secondly, the martial Tao realm of a seventh-stage dominator also corresponded with Long Zai-Tian's current strength. After all, Long Zai-Tian was a commander of a legion on the battlefield, and a seventh-stage dominator was a rigid requirement for a commander. Judging from his aura and the information provided by the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor, Long Zai-Tian's comprehension of the Thunder attribute divine text should be relatively strong, at least surpassing some of the other divine text attribute. Therefore, the white-clothed figure in front of him was most likely Long Yu's father, Long Zai-Tian. However, why would Long Zai-Tian appear here? Long Yu suddenly quivered as he realized that he had been dragged into a spiritual illusion array. If the white-clothed figure in front of him was really Long Zai-Tian, then it was merely an illusion. Right now, what Long Yu was thinking about shouldn't be whether this fellow was Long Zai-Tian or not, but how to break this spiritual illusion formation. With the pure world physique blocking, Long Yu wasn't completely controlled by the spiritual illusion array, and he still had a trace of consciousness. However, he didn't have any guesses as to how to break this illusion array. He could only wait for the white-clothed figure that looked like Long Zai-Tian to come closer and see what the other party wanted to do. As the white-clothed figure approached, Long Yu continuously felt that the white-clothed figure emitted waves of killing intent, and the closer the killing intent got, the denser the killing intent became. Long Yu was extremely sensitive to killing intent, and now he was sure that he wasn't hallucinating. Killing intent constantly emitted from the white-clothed figure. Of course, this killing intent was only aimed at Long Yu. Other than Long Yu, there were no other living beings present. Long Yu, as expected of Long Zai-Tian's son. Ha ha ha, you actually came out from the 9 netherworld, and even stepped into the sovereign secret realm, ha 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 ha. A burst of laughter rang out abruptly. The voice of the white-robed figure was clear and refreshing. However, even that laughter contained waves of killing intent. This killing intent caused Long Yu to subconsciously raise his guard. However, since you've come out, there will be a day where you will obstruct me. Since that's the case, I'll kill you today, lest you ruin my grand plan in the future. The white-clothed figure laughed heartily, and waves of killing intent spread out. His words shocked Long Yu even more. This white-clothed figure had already admitted that he was Long Zai-Tian, and yet he still wanted to kill him. Long Yu? Calm down, calm down. This is just an illusion. This white-clothed figure is completely an image created by the spiritual illusion array, and it isn't my father, Long Zai-Tian. Beads of cold sweat appeared on Long Yu's forehead, and he kept reminding himself that this was just an illusion. However, as the white-clothed figure got closer and closer, the pressure from the heavens became stronger, as if Mount Tai was crushing down on him, and Long Yu's body was unable to move. Heavenly prison lightning break. The white-clothed figure approached, and the face that resembled Long Yu had a calm expression, and his eyes were filled with indifference, as if he didn't treat Long Yu as his own son. Raising his hand, he condensed a beam of lightning, and this was the heavenly prison lightning. The lightning broke through the air, and it headed straight for Long Yu. What should I do? Should I dodge? Should I block it? Beads of cold sweat appeared on Long Yu's forehead, and a trace of hesitation appeared in the depths of his heart. He was worried that if the white-clothed figure was really his father, Long Zai Tian, and Long Zai Tian really wanted to kill him, then if he didn't dodge now, he would be giving the other party the best opportunity. If Long Yu wanted to defend himself, he only needed to take out the 9 Hell Tablet and hide in his small world. It would be completely enough for the other party to shatter the 9 Hell Tablet, no matter what. On the contrary, the other party's powerful attack would definitely cause the 9 Hell Tablet to explode with its own power. In that case, the entire twin star turbulence would probably be completely annihilated. In other words, if Long Yu wanted to block it, he could easily do so, and at least he wouldn't be in any danger. But in that case, the spiritual illusion array would achieve its desired effect, which was to make Long Yu no longer believe that this was an illusion. In that case, Long Yu wouldn't even be able to break the spiritual illusion array, and it would be even more difficult for him to see the Heaven Fire Elder. Even if the other party was in the middle of the twin star turbulence, it would be basically impossible for him to see the other party. If he failed, he wouldn't even be able to see the other party, let alone invite the other party to the Void Galaxy to hold the fort. The choice was completely up to Long Yu, and Long Yu only had the time to blink an eye. In this blink of an eye, Long Yu had to make a choice. Should he believe that what was in front of him was an illusion, or should he prioritize his own life and protect himself first? Long Yu clenched his teeth. At this moment, he had already sunk into an illusion. He could no longer sense the existence of the wood primordial energy around him. However, he knew that the wood primordial energy had not dissipated. Instead, it was becoming denser and denser. It was just that Long Yu was used to the aura of the wood primordial energy, so he subconsciously ignored it. He couldn't even sense the wood primordial energy when he wanted to deliberately sense it. This was because part of his senses had been paralyzed by the illusion array. Even when Long Yu combined his balanced control and pure world body, these two martial arts' secret arts, he was unable to weaken the numbing effect in the slightest. No matter what, this Heaven Fire Elder is the best candidate to hold the fort in the Void Galaxy. So, as long as there's a glimmer of hope, I definitely can't give up. Moreover, I'm 99% sure that this figure of Long Zai Tian is completely an illusion. As Long Yu thought to himself, he finally made his final decision. He would remain as still as a mountain and continue to take the opponent's attack head-on. In the next moment, in the blink of an eye, the beam of divine runes from the sky prison lightning landed on Long Yu's abdomen. When Long Yu decided to believe in his own intuition, he didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he allowed the beam of divine runes to land on his dantian, a vital point. In the next moment, Long Yu didn't feel any injuries on his body. Instead, his surroundings suddenly became clear. The white-clothed figure that was originally blocking his path also laughed lightly before gradually becoming blurry in front of Long Yu's eyes. In the end, it completely disappeared. This scene allowed the tense Long Yu to finally heave a sigh of relief. Obviously, he had made the right bet. Even though the probability of making the right bet in this situation was not small, after all, Long Zai Tian was a commander of the army on the battlefield. How could he have come to the twin star turbulence of the Dragon and Phoenix stars? Moreover, Long Yu didn't think that Long Zai Tian had really abandoned him and Beiyao. Long Zai Tian definitely had his own reasons for not returning to the Heavenly Mandate continent. As for what the reason was, Long Yu didn't know, but it was definitely not because he was afraid that he and Bei Yuyao would hinder him in any way. The figure in white completely disappeared before Long Yu's eyes. The power of the wood element also quickly dissipated in the surrounding twin star turbulence, and Long Yu found that he was still in the inner space of the nether dragon blade. Obviously, the scene just now was completely an illusion created in Long Yu's mind. He hadn't even left the inner space of the nether dragon blade. This kind of powerful spiritual illusion matrix was definitely an extremely magical means, and it could create different illusions according to each person's mood, which was undoubtedly admirable. If there are such powerful weapon refiners and matrix masters in the Void Galaxy, the defense will be further enhanced, which will play a key role in the development of the entire Void Galaxy. Once again, Long Yu sighed with emotion at the power of this spiritual illusion array. Then, he ordered Little Void to continue moving forward. He didn't know if there were any more spiritual illusion arrays in front of him, but no matter what, he had to move forward as fast as possible. Chapter 1378. After breaking 3 mental illusion formations in succession, Long Yu had a taste of Heaven Fire Doyan's profound attainments in formation. Moreover, Heaven Fire Doyan's main occupation was not to study formation, but weapon refinement. In terms of formation, Heaven Fire Doyan was almost at the peak, let alone weapon refinement. He was definitely an existence that stood at the peak of the entire human clan and monster clan. This further strengthened Long Yu's plan to pull Heaven Fire Doyan into his camp. To be honest, the forces in the Void Galaxy did not have the foundation and possibility to develop into a powerful force. Apart from the primordial gold pond and the Juyo Dragon Emperor's body, the Void Galaxy did not have a strong foundation. However, if Heaven Fire Doyan were to join them, he would be a great help. In terms of importance to a force, the Heaven Fire Doyan was definitely not inferior to the absolute beginning Golden Pond. Not only was the value of the Heaven Fire Doyan, but he was also able to refine combat weapons and set up magical formations. He could also take in disciples and teach them the techniques of refining weapons and magical formations. Inheritance was the most important and fundamental thing for a force. In order to develop, inheritance was indispensable. Long Yu continued to move forward. Soon, he felt that the double star turbulence had calmed down. It was not as violent as before. I should be almost at the center of the double star turbulence. Long Yu observed his surroundings carefully in the internal space of the nether dragon blade. He found that he had arrived at a place where the power was more stable. It felt like he had finally reached the calm surface of a lake from a raging river. Long Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Since he had arrived at this place, he should have passed through all the mental illusion formations, right? Long Yu was not very sure. However, he sensed the situation around him with his strengthened spiritual senses through balanced control. He did not find any living beings or traces of living beings in this place. If the Heaven Fire Doyan lives here, he must have a base of operations. No matter what kind of building it is, there must be one. If it's not in a great world, it must be in a small world. However, other than the turbulence of the 2 stars, there is nothing else here. Where does the Heaven Fire Doyan live? Long Yu frowned slightly. He was still wondering if that old man Tian Hua had already left this place and no longer treated this place as his residence. After all, Xiaobai had said that he had not seen Heaven Fire Doyan for a long time. No one knew where Heaven Fire Doyan was. No matter what, Long Yu had to search the vicinity. As he continued to move forward, he suddenly felt a strange aura behind him. Long Yu immediately turned around, only to see a fiery red mist appear out of thin air behind him, followed by the figures of several old men flying out of the fiery red mist. Long Yu was immediately alerted. He immediately realized that the figures of the few old men were exactly the same. It was an old man wearing a fiery red cloak. His entire body was red, and even his hair and beard were fiery red. Even his eyes were filled with fiery light. 4 of such old men appeared behind Long Yu. The next moment, another 4 appeared on Long Yu's right and another 4 appeared on his left. In the end, Long Yu's front, back, left, right, up and down, a total of 24 old men wearing fiery red cloaks appeared in 6 different directions. Heaven Fire Doyen? Long Yu was surprised. He did not expect Heaven Fire Doyen to appear in front of him so quickly. Furthermore, he took the initiative to look for him. Originally, he had planned to meet Long Zai Tian if there were no traces of Heaven Fire Doyen in the 2 stars' turbulence. But now, since Heaven Fire Doyen had appeared, there was no need to go through so much trouble. He should settle this matter first. However, at this very moment, Long Yu looked at the expressions of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyen and felt that they were not happy to see him. Who dares to barge into this old man's residence? 24 Heaven Fire Doyens shouted at the same time. Their auras were vast, and they surrounded Long Yu in the middle. The pressure was extremely terrifying. One had to know that each of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens had the tyrannical aura of a 7th stage dominator. Even if Long Yu had a firm mind, he was intimidated on the spot when the other party spoke. His mind was shaken and he almost stopped thinking. This was similar to the effect that Long Yu used the 9 underworld dragons' true spirit to intimidate his enemies. Now, he was also enduring a similar pressure. Even with the pure world body's defense, it couldn't stop the other party's pressure from intimidating Long Yu on the spot. Only after 3 breaths of time did Long Yu gradually recover. When he opened his eyes again, he realized that the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens had completely different expressions. Some were angry, some were laughing, some were cold, some were passionate. The 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's aura had completely changed into 24 different appearances. Senior. Long Yu forced himself to calm down. Under the different aura of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens, he felt that the power in his body was constantly becoming chaotic, and he was almost unable to control it. However, he still had to say what he needed to say. This is a recommendation jade slip given to me by a friend of mine. Please take a look. Long Yu was embarrassed to say his purpose of coming. It was enough to give Little White's recommendation jade slip. The other party would definitely understand what he meant. Do you want to become this old man's disciple? The 24 Heaven Fire Doyens spoke in unison again. Although their tones were different, they all gave Long Yu a great pressure. Seeing that the other party had no intention of taking Little White's jade slip, Long Yu couldn't help but have a bad premonition. This old man wouldn't chase him out without even taking a look, right? This wasn't good. However, the situation was stronger than the person. If the other party really wanted to chase him away, there was nothing he could do. Without waiting for Long Yu to reply, the 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars spoke in unison. In that case, take a look. As soon as they finished speaking, Long Yu saw a ball of red flame suddenly light up about 10 miles in front of him. The flame was faintly discernible in the dual star turbulence, but it was still very conspicuous. It could be forgotten at a glance. If you can hold that flame in your hand, you will be qualified to become this old man's disciple. This old man will give you 1 month. The 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars spoke in unison. Their aura pressure didn't weaken in the slightest. It made it hard for Long Yu to move even if he wanted to. This situation made Long Yu very puzzled. The other party's 24 avatars all had the aura of a 7th rank dominator. To make a lower rank dominator like Long Yu resist the other party's aura and run 10 miles to hold a ball of flame, the difficulty was too high. Although he had 1 month, unless Long Yu could break through to 7th rank dominator within this 1 month, there was basically no hope. In fact, let alone Long Yu, even if it was another 7th rank dominator, it would probably be difficult to do it, right? Most importantly, Long Yu didn't come here to become the Heaven Fire Doyen's disciple. No matter what, Long Yu had to clarify this point. He opened his mouth with great difficulty and said, "Senior. Junior has come here to invite Senior for a matter. This matter should also be very attractive to Senior. It's not because I want to become Senior's disciple." After saying this, Long Yu relaxed a lot. He had already said it. Although Little White's jade slip was useless, if the other party didn't even consider it, then Long Yu couldn't do anything. He could only think of another way to become a weaponsmith. However, after he said this, the other party's reaction made Long Yu feel a little strange. Generally speaking, no matter how strange the other party's temper was, when he heard Long Yu's explanation, he would definitely have some reaction. Whether he chased him away or listened to him continue, in short, he definitely wouldn't be silent. But right now, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars were completely silent. 24 doppelgangers. Each doppelganger maintained a different expression. Happiness, anger, sadness, happiness, all of them had different expressions. However, every single doppelganger surrounded Long Yu, not reacting to his words at all. This made Long Yu feel extremely strange. He recalled that when he took out the jade slip, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars didn't even look at the jade slip. This situation didn't seem right. Even if Heaven Fire Doyen's temper was strange, it shouldn't be this strange, right? Oh right, these 24 figures, are they all just avatars? Long Yu suddenly thought of this possibility, and came to a realization. If these 24 were all avatars, it meant that Heaven Fire Doyen's real body wasn't here. If he wasn't here, then how did these 24 avatars appear? Of course, it was the spirit design. Long Yu came here, triggered the spirit design, and then caused the 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars to appear and surround him. Then, they tyrannically and unreasonably asked him to go through the test and obtain the cluster of flames 10 miles away. It's even a spirit design. Is there no end to it? Long Yu almost broke down. He thought he had finally met Heaven Fire Doyens, who knew that after some guesses, he would find out that these were all just avatars formed by the spirit design. This was extremely disappointing. But no matter what, since he was here, breaking the spirit design was Long Yu's most important task. Since it's a mental illusion spirit design, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars don't have any real power. I don't need to care about them and just need to hold the cluster of flames in my hand. Long Yu thought to himself. Heaven Fire Doyens had given him a month's time. In this month's time, he could still study the spirit design in detail. Chapter 1379. Long Yu was completely surrounded by the 24 doppelgangers of Heaven Fire Doyen. Boundless aura surged towards him from all directions, making him unable to move at all. Although he knew that the 24 doppelgangers of Heaven Fire Doyen were definitely illusions created by the spirit design and it was impossible for them to truly emit such a strong aura, but under the influence of the spirit design, he was unable to ignore the aura pressure. It became extremely difficult for Long Yu to hold the cluster of flames that was 10 miles away in his hand. However, fortunately, there was a month for Long Yu to get used to it. As long as he got used to the aura pressure, Long Yu's mind and willpower would be tempered, and he should be able to ignore the aura pressure that was not real. There was a saying in the human clan and the demon clan that the stronger one's mind was, the firmer one's willpower would be, and one would not be easily affected by other factors during a battle. This included mental attacks, illusion attacks, and so on. At this moment, Long Yu felt that he should temper his own mind. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to break the spirit design of the 24 doppelgangers of Heaven Fire Doyen. These doppelgangers of Heaven Fire Doyen are all illusions, including their aura pressure. As long as I can recognize this point, I can easily escape from this spirit design. As Long Yu thought to himself, he gritted his teeth and closed his eyes. This would help him to imagine that everything around him was an illusion. The aura pressure surged endlessly. Even though Long Yu had closed his eyes, he could still feel the waves of aura pressure landing on him, suppressing him completely, making him unable to move at all. Fortunately, as time passed, Long Yu gradually got used to the aura pressure. The more he got used to it, the less easily he was affected by it. The long tempering of his mind soon began. In the first 3 days, Long Yu did not make any progress at all. Although he had gotten used to the aura pressure, it was impossible for him to escape from its influence. But from the 4th day onwards, Long Yu's situation became better. The aura pressure that Long Yu felt was getting weaker and weaker. This was because he was constantly under such a strong aura pressure, and he had finally gotten used to it. In just 3 days, the strength of Long Yu's mind had been tempered to a relatively high level. In the following period of time, Long Yu's improvement was even faster. His willpower was not weak to begin with. Now that he had persistently hinted to himself for 3 consecutive days that everything around him was an illusion, he had already accepted this fact from the bottom of his heart. Because of this, when Long Yu opened his eyes on the 4th day, the surrounding aura pressure started to weaken in his eyes. The energy in Long Yu's blood and dantian was finally released from the state of being completely stunned. It began to slowly flow, circulating within Long Yu's body once more. As a result, Long Yu's fingers could finally move, and as time passed, more and more parts of his body were freed from the pressure. 10 miles away, the clump of flames was still burning. As long as Long Yu held the clump of flames in his hand, he would be able to pass through the illusion array. In other words, he would have passed the Heaven Fire Doyan's disciple recruitment test. On the 4th day, Long Yu was still unable to move his position, but he could move his fingers slightly. On the 5th day, Long Yu's legs were finally freed from the pressure, and he could move slightly towards the cluster of flames. Although its speed was very slow, it was at least starting to move. At this rate, it would take at least half a year to reach the cluster of flames. It was impossible to grasp the cluster of flames within a month. Fortunately, Long Yu's body was constantly being released from the pressure of the imposing aura. He could be sure that it was not that the pressure of the 24 clones of the Heaven Fire Doyan had weakened, but that the pressure was just an illusion. As long as his willpower and spirit were strengthened, he would naturally not be affected by the pressure of the imposing aura. Moreover, Long Yu had cultivated the pure world body, so he had a natural resistance to the power of illusions and illusions. After today's experience, Long Yu felt that it was necessary to continue to improve his pure world physique. If he could cultivate the pure world physique to the peak of the 9th layer, what kind of tyrannical effect would it have? Long Yu knew that to improve the pure world body, he would need a lot of creation items. However, did he lack creation items now? Not at all. Although most of the creation items that he had exchanged at the army headquarters had been brought back to the Void Galaxy as resources for the development of the entire alliance, Long Yu had also left some for himself. There were still many celestial crystal-level creation items, but he had not had the time to cultivate them. The trial at the Demigod College was still quite dangerous. Long Yu thought that he had to cultivate properly before the next trial began. The 6th day, the 7th day. Time continued to pass, and Long Yu continued to advance towards the cluster of flames. The pressure of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyans became weaker and weaker in Long Yu's eyes, and he moved faster and faster towards the cluster of flames. Finally, on the 10th day, although Long Yu had not completely broken free from the pressure of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyans, he was already less than half a kilometer away from the cluster of flames. Although I can hold the cluster of flames in my hand and break the formation, if I break the formation just like that, my spirit refinement doesn't seem to be complete, Long Yu thought to himself. Finally, he decided to let his spirit refinement reach the peak first. Right now there was the pressure of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyans, and it was an excellent environment for spirit refinement. If he missed this condition, it would not be so easy to refine his spirit in the future. Therefore, Long Yu did not directly go forward to hold the cluster of flames in his hand. Instead, he stayed where he was and continued to resist the strong pressure, strengthening his willpower and spirit. However, Long Yu discovered a phenomenon. On the 10th day, the red color of the cluster of flames suddenly became a little lighter. Long Yu observed carefully. This could not be an illusion. Although it did not become much lighter, it was indeed a little lighter. He did not know what was going on. Could it be that this cluster of flames is becoming lighter with time to record the score of the challenger? Long Yu thought to himself. This cluster of flames would still be red for the next 10 days. If he held it in his hand during this period, he might pass the illusion formation with full mark. After 10 days, the color would become lighter, and his score might not be as good. However, Long Yu did not need any score. He only needed to pass the formation and see if Heaven Fire Doyens was in the twin star turbulence. He did not really want to be Heaven Fire Doyen's disciple. Therefore, Long Yu continued to calmly continue. Anyway, the time limit for challenging the array was 1 month. He did not panic and continued to temper his spiritual will. In this way, he persisted for 29 days. In these 29 days, he was almost unaffected by the pressure of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens clones. In the illusion formation, his entire person was like an ordinary region, and he would not be obstructed at all. This did not mean that Long Yu's willpower had been tempered to the point where it could no longer be improved. However, his willpower was now completely sufficient to deal with the illusion formation. After the 29th day, Long Yu leisurely walked forward for 1 kilometer. Finally, he stretched out his hand and grasped the cluster of flames that had already dimmed twice in his hand. Ordinary flames were not a threat to Long Yu. Even if his entire body was on fire, it would not hurt him. However, at this moment, when Long Yu held the flame in his hand, he felt an intense burning sensation. This cluster of flames was definitely not an ordinary flame, but a derivative of the power of primordial fire. However, with Long Yu's current willpower, it was impossible for him to retreat. The key was that he did not need to retreat at all. So what if one of his hands was burned? Long Yu cultivated the martial arts mystic technique, Devil Dust Heart. As long as the Devil Dust Heart was not destroyed, he would not die and could be reborn indefinitely. Long Yu was extremely tough. He held the cluster of flames in one hand. Although his arm was constantly being burned by the flames, Long Yu was also constantly activating the Devil Dust Heart to regenerate his arm. If it was someone else, Long Yu really did not know how to hold this cluster of flames. Perhaps, only a cultivator who had also comprehended the tyrannical power of fire attribute divine runes would be able to grasp this cluster of flames and not have to worry about being incinerated by it. However, although Long Yu did not comprehend the power of fire divine text, this cluster of flames could not destroy him. The power of the Devil Dust Heart was not just for show. Although he had only cultivated it to the 2nd level, the speed at which his body was reconstructed was enough for him to deal with the current situation. As his arm was constantly burned and reconstructed, Long Yu also became a little more familiar with the power of the cluster of flames. Gradually, it would not be burned so easily. As for Long Yu, he realized that he might not have enough time. After all, it would be the last day before he would be able to hold onto the cluster of flames. Thus, he covered his arm with the power of the 9 nether divine characters to protect it. In this way, the cluster of flames could not directly burn Long Yu's arm. As long as Long Yu's power was not exhausted, and the defense of the 9 nether divine text was not broken, the cluster of flames could not hurt Long Yu. Under such circumstances, Long Yu clenched the clump of flames tightly. Then, he saw the 24 clones of the Heaven Fire Doyen finally start to disappear. Even the waves of illusory aura pressure were instantly wiped out. Chapter 1380. When the 24 clones of the Heaven Fire Doyen dissipated, Long Yu knew that he had finally broken through the mental illusion array. At the same time, the cluster of flames in his hand also gradually disappeared from his line of sight. Very quickly, it turned into nothingness. Everything was just an illusion. In the past month, everything that Long Yu had seen was not real. Only in that 1 month's time, Long Yu's mental willpower had improved greatly through tempering. This was of great help to him. In the future, if he were to encounter mental attacks, his resistance would be much stronger than before. Long Yu didn't think too much about it. He once again spread his spiritual perception to the surroundings. He discovered that after passing through the mental illusion array, he had arrived in a more serene space with the nether dragon blade. Outside this space, the power of the twin stars was constantly circulating and it was extremely chaotic. However, in this space it was a peaceful scene. The chaotic twin star turbulence did not affect this space. The space wasn't very wide and it only had a radius of slightly more than 10 miles. However, it was completely possible for the Heaven Fire Doyen to use this place as his residence. Although there were no buildings or the existence of a pocket dimension, since the Heaven Fire Doyen wasn't here, it was normal that his residence wasn't here. He could bring his home wherever he went. After all, as a peak weapon refinement master, the Heaven Fire Doyen definitely had a set of weapon refinement equipment for himself. He couldn't keep these equipment in one place. If that was the case, he wouldn't have so many residences. It was most likely that the set of weapon refinement equipment was always carried by the Heaven Fire Doyen. In his pocket dimension, it wouldn't be too troublesome to bring it around. If that was the case, the Heaven Fire Doyen could come and recuperate at any time in the middle of the twin star turbulence. No matter how long he stayed, no one would come to this place. It seems that the Heaven Fire Doyen isn't here. Long Yu felt that it was a pity. He was certain that he had arrived at the deepest part of the twin star turbulence. However, apart from passing through 4 mental illusion arrays, he didn't even see the shadow of the Heaven Fire Doyen. It was obvious that the Heaven Fire Doyen was not here for the time being. His trip was a wasted one. However, it could be said that he had gained something. After all, in the past month, he had greatly improved his mental willpower. This not only increased his resistance to mental attacks, but it could also produce many unexpected effects on his future cultivation. There were gains. Even if it wasn't a waste of time, Long Yu wasn't too disappointed. Since Heaven Fire Doyen wasn't here, he would go back and look for Long Zitian to see what was going on over there. During this month, Long Yu was unable to receive any news from the outside world. He also didn't know how Red Oriole and Moon Song were faring. However, since it was a trial in a demigod academy, Moon Song was a veteran. She probably wouldn't accept anything too dangerous. There shouldn't be any accidents. However, Long Yu couldn't inform the other party about his current situation. The twin star turbulence had a very serious interference to information. With Long Yu's current strength, there was no way he could send a message out. Of course, as long as Long Yu left the twin star turbulence, he would be able to contact Red Oriole directly. Before they separated, both of them took out a spacetime imprint to record the other party's location. Through the spacetime imprint they could communicate with each other. Although the spacetime imprint was very precious, it wasn't something difficult for Long Yu and Red Oriole to obtain. Even if they used their Legion merits to exchange for it, a spacetime imprint was only worth around 10,000 Legion merit. Therefore, both Long Yu and Red Oriole had exchanged for one earlier in case they couldn't find each other when they were separated. Long Yu turned around and was about to leave this peaceful space when he suddenly felt a message appear in his mind. "Wait for 3 months and I will return." These simple words told Long Yu some useful information and also caused Long Yu to be shocked, because these words seemed to have directly sounded out in his mind, and not from any other place. This was simply inconceivable. The meaning of these words was very simple. As long as Long Yu waited here for 3 months, the heaven fire Doyen would return to the twin star turbulence. At that time, Long Yu would naturally be able to see the other party's true body. After all, when these words sounded, Long Yu felt a similar aura from the 24 clones of the heaven fire Doyen just now. It had to be the heaven fire Doyen's true body. Moreover, the other party had sent a message to Long Yu from an unknown distance. He actually already knew of Long Yu's existence. Could it be because Long Yu had passed through so many mental illusion arrays? That was possible. When these words entered Long Yu's mind, Long Yu suddenly became conflicted. Should he wait here for 3 months or leave to find Long Zitian? After all, waiting here seemed to be a waste of time, but if he went to find Long Zitian, it would be a little disrespectful to the Heaven Fire Doyen. No matter what, the Heaven Fire Doyen was still very important to Long Yu. It was related to the future development of the entire Void Galaxy. As for his father, Long Zitian, it was only a personal matter of Long Yu. Other than him, it was also related to his mother, Beiyuyao. Beiyuyao was now in Long Yu's pocket dimension and could be said to be with Long Yu. When he saw Long Zitian, he could directly ask Beiyuyao to come out and meet him. If I wait here, I can cultivate for a while and try out the effects of the divine wine. But I can't send a message to Red Oriole and Moon Song. Long Yu thought to himself. It was also at this moment that the consciousness of the Void Nether Dragon Blade transmitted to Long Yu through Little Void's will. Little Void told Long Yu that she could leave in Long Yu's place and send some messages. This surprised Long Yu. After thinking for a while, he knew that this was indeed feasible. Take this space-time imprint with you and leave the twin star turbulence. After passing the message to Red Oriole, return to the center of the twin star turbulence. You must be careful. Long Yu was very concerned about Little Void. Little Void's mind was connected to Long Yu's, so she naturally knew what Long Yu was thinking. After returning the space-time imprint to her inner world, the Void Nether Dragon Blade turned into a stream of black light and flew from Long Yu's location towards the periphery of the twin star turbulence. When flying over, Long Yu had encountered several mental illusion formations in succession. His speed was indeed not fast, but when he returned, the Void Nether Dragon Blade would be able to travel alone. In less than half a day, it would be able to leave the range of the twin star turbulence and pass the message to Red Oriole and Moon Song. This way, Long Yu planned to cultivate here for 3 months. 3 months was enough for him to do many things. First of all, he had the divine wine on him. After drinking it, he could increase the speed at which he comprehended various powers. It was extremely useful. In addition, he had stored a lot of world spirit energy in his little world. He could use it to cultivate a wave of devil dust heart. Moreover, the world spirit energy he had accumulated in the past month could be used to account to the bone race and the remnant race. The deal between Long Yu and Yu Wufang had not been carried out yet. But in this month, Long Yu had provided the bone race and the remnant race with 10 times the amount of world spirit energy. It was about time to find him and ask for an unbounded rank martial skill jade slip. Since you want me to wait for 3 months, then I'll wait here. This heavenly fire Doyen probably thinks that someone has broken through his formation and wants to take him as their master. Long Yu smiled and didn't think too much about it. Since they wanted to wait, he would wait. It wasn't a waste of time anyway. There were many things he didn't have time to do, and he was worried that he wouldn't have time to comprehend things. Now that he had 3 months, it was not bad. Let's drink a bottle of divine wine first. Let's see how quickly I can comprehend the power of the Enlightenment Rank 9 Nether Divine characters. Long Yu calmed down, and after planning out his next cultivation plan, he took out the 3 bottles of soul-connecting wine that he had prepared. He had exchanged 5 bottles of divine wine in the Demigod College, but 2 of them were temporarily given to Red Oriole. He wanted to improve their strength a little. Now that Long Yu had time, he was going to drink a bottle of divine wine first. This thing is worth 4 million battlefield merit points per bottle. I want to see how much it can improve my understanding of power. Long Yu thought in his heart as he opened a bottle of soul-connecting wine. Then, he lifted his hand and opened the bottle in his hand, then opened his mouth and drank it down. As soon as the divine wine entered his stomach, Long Yu felt as if he had become a little dizzy, and his connection with heaven and earth seemed to have deepened. In such a state, he remembered what he needed to do. He immediately took out the 9 hell steel and entered the space inside it, ready to comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine characters. The Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine characters were only found in the space inside the 9 hell steel, and if he wanted to comprehend them, he had to go to the 9 hell steel. After entering the space inside the 9 hell steel, Long Yu was once again surrounded by sticky Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine characters, which were derived from the primordial power of the metal element and much more powerful than most of the other divine characters. The effect of the divine wine hadn't appeared yet, but Long Yu had already felt the effect. In such a state, the speed at which he comprehended the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine characters was twice as fast as before. Moreover, as the effect of the divine wine spread out, Long Yu's speed of comprehension was getting faster and faster. Let's see to what extent I can cultivate here in 3 months. Long Yu was very confident in his cultivation speed. Now that he had the divine wine, he had no doubt about it. Since he had 3 months of free time, he might as well cultivate well. Chapter 1381. As Long Yu drank the divine wine, the speed at which he comprehended the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text in the 9 Underworlds monument grew faster and faster. At the beginning, the speed increased by 1-fold. Then it climbed to 2 times, to 3 times, to 4 times. At the same time, Long Yu's consciousness became more and more hazy. Many strange thoughts appeared in his mind, just like how he usually drank. He was probably a little drunk. If it was just ordinary wine, Long Yu would not be drunk at all. But this divine wine was obviously not ordinary. While increasing Long Yu's cultivation speed, the soul-connecting wine was also causing him to become more and more intoxicated, to the point where he was gradually losing consciousness. This kind of situation was something that Long Yu had not expected. Even though he had just tempered his spirit and raised his willpower to a whole new level, he still could not stop the attack of intoxication caused by the divine connecting wine. But what excited Long Yu was that the more he lost consciousness, the faster his cultivation speed became. It was 10 times, 20 times, and still it was increasing. How much can the divine wine increase my cultivation speed? Long Yu thought in his heart. He didn't slack off in the slightest. Even if he became drunk, he still treated cultivation as his #1 priority. After concentrating, Long Yu didn't need to use his consciousness to control it. He could naturally comprehend and cultivate the Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine text. After all, Long Yu's entire body was surrounded by the sticky Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine text. When the cultivation speed increased to 50 times, Long Yu was almost very unconscious. He did not even know what he was doing, but he still subconsciously cultivated, without the slightest pause. What happened next, Long Yu could not remember clearly because he had completely lost his consciousness. He was attacked by the drunkenness of the divine wine, and there was no way to break away. When he woke up and opened his eyes again, it was already a day later. The effect of the divine wine was 1 day. When Long Yu woke up, he immediately checked his cultivation and found that he had actually comprehended 45% of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. This discovery made Long Yu pleasantly surprised. In the 3 months he spent in the Void Galaxy, his comprehension of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text increased from 10% to 30%. But now, in just 1 day, his comprehension of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text increased from 30% to 45%. This speed was simply unheard of. Based on this effect, the divine spirit wine can increase one's cultivation speed by 100-fold. It's a pity that it only lasts for a day. Otherwise, if I drank the divine spirit wine and slept for a few days, I'd have fully comprehended the revelation divine text of 9 nether by the time I woke up. Long you couldn't help but get excited. The effects of this soul transcendence wine were simply too heaven-defying. It was no wonder it was priced at 4 million legion merit points. Most people wouldn't be willing to buy it. It must be known that ordinary cultivators would not be willing to spend 4 million army merit points even if they spent 3 months cultivating slowly. For ordinary cultivators, 4 million army merit points were definitely enough for them to do a lot of other things. It was purely a waste to use it to buy the divine spirit wine to speed up their cultivation. Only people like Long Yu would drink the divine spirit wine to speed up their cultivation. Generally speaking, the divine spirit wine was quite popular in the demigod colleges, but not so many people in the outside world. Of course, normally speaking, the divine spirit wine was not sold in the outside world. Even in the headquarters of the Battlefield Legion, the divine spirit wine was rarely seen, because it was not something that ordinary alchemists could make. Even the demigod colleges only had a dozen bottles of divine spirit wine. According to Moonsong, the divine spirit wine was a cultivation resource that only appeared at the beginning of every year's expedition, and then there would be another 10 bottles half a year later. It was basically impossible to appear at any other time. In other words, the divine spirit wine was made by a special person. 10 bottles were made every 6 months and sent to the demigod colleges for sale. And Long Yu bought 5 bottles at once. The next time he returned to the demigod colleges, there might not be any left. However, Long Yu was not in a hurry. After all, there would be more in half a year. He would save enough army merit points first and buy them all at once half a year later. The speed of cultivation was a great surprise to Long Yu. He decided to drink the remaining 2 bottles of divine spirit wine together. The increase in his comprehension of the Enlightenment Grade 9 Nether God text had greatly increased Long Yu's actual combat power. Every 10% he comprehended would double the power of his god art. This was no joke. Then, Long Yu drank the divine spirit wine. It took him 1 day, which was almost equivalent to 3 months of cultivation, to understand 55% of the Revelation Level 9th Nether language. Of course, the cultivation speed of the Revelation Level 9th Nether language was getting slower and slower. However, Long Yu was pleasantly surprised to discover that while drinking the divine wine increased his comprehension speed of the Enlightenment Level 9 Nether divine characters, the metal elemental heavenly spiritual source in his small world also increased his comprehension speed of metal elemental Genesis power. Drinking 2 bottles of divine spirit wine was equivalent to giving Long Yu 6 more months of cultivation time, and Long Yu's understanding of the power of gold had reached more than 20%. This was something Long Yu sure hadn't expected. However, he was pleasantly surprised that the divine wine had such an additional effect. The increase in the metal element's origin power also increased the speed at which he comprehended the Revelation Level 9 Nether divine characters. In such a state, Long Yu continued to drink the 3rd bottle of divine spirit wine. However, the 3rd bottle of divine spirit wine lasted a little less than the previous 2. Of the 24 hours in a day, he woke up after about 20 hours. This made Long Yu's heart skip a beat. This divine spirit wine probably had the same effect as elixirs, but it was not as obvious as elixirs, where the effect was halved on the 2nd bottle. The duration of the 3rd bottle of soul transcendence wine was 4 hours shorter, greatly reducing the effect of cultivation. It seems that I'll have to use the devil dust heart to reconstruct my body when I drink the divine spirit wine in the future. Otherwise, the effect won't be so heaven-defying. Long Yu thought to himself. This time, he was just experimenting and wasted a little, but it didn't matter much. Although the duration was shorter than 4 hours, It was still equivalent to more than 2 months of cultivation. He had finally comprehended 60% of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine Text and 30% of the Metal Elemental Genesis power. In total, the destructive power of Long Yu's innate magic power had increased by more than 3 to 4 times. It was no exaggeration to say that Long Yu's current strength was barely enough to fight against a great ruler-level opponent, and he would not easily be at a disadvantage. No one would believe this. After all, Long Yu's martial realm was only a lower ruler. At the level of a lower ruler, being able to defeat a middle ruler was already considered a genius. Being able to defeat a high ruler like Long Yu was already considered a genius among geniuses. But now, Long Yu could fight against a great ruler-level existence with a lower ruler-level cultivation. This had undoubtedly created another legend. Of course, this was only Long Yu's guess. He had not confirmed it, but he truly felt his strength increase explosively. Just 3 bottles of Divine Spirit wine allowed him to comprehend 60% of the Revelation Level 9th Nether language and 30% of the power of gold. This was simply shocking. The explosive increase in strength made Long Yu a little unfamiliar, so he returned to his small world and created a few primordial shadows for them to spar with. The results of sparring naturally weren't very good, but Long Yu couldn't find any opponents on the same level as him to spar with, so he just had to make do with familiarizing himself with his strength. 7 days had passed since Long Yu arrived at the center of the twin star turbulence and received the news that Heaven Fire Doyen had told him to wait for 3 months. In these 7 days, Long Yu drank 3 bottles of Divine Spirit wine, increasing his strength by several times, and familiarizing himself with this explosive increase in strength. The time it took for his strength to increase was too short, and to Long Yu, it could be said to be sudden. At the beginning, he was not able to control it well. After all, it was not cultivated bit by bit, but had unknowingly grown while he was drunk, which was why such a situation occurred. Fortunately, Long Yu grasped his strength very quickly. In 3 to 4 days, he had completely grasped his current strength. At least, there wouldn't be any situations where he used too much strength, and he could use as much strength as he wanted. After 7 days, Long Yu turned his attention to other aspects. After drinking the Divine Spirit wine, it was time to cultivate other things. He had comprehended 60% of the Prophet Level 9 Nether Divine Text, and it was impossible for him to have any further breakthroughs for the time being. Without the help of the Divine Spirit wine, it would take at least half a year to comprehend 10% of the Prophet Level 9 Nether Divine Text, and Long Yu didn't have that much time to comprehend it. Next, there are many things I can do. I can either cultivate the Devil Dust Heart, and the Heaven and Earth spiritual chi has accumulated quite a lot under the effect of the Holy Spirit Source, or I can absorb the creation item to increase my martial realm, or I can cultivate the pure world body. Both are not bad. Long Yu pondered in his heart and quickly decided to raise his martial Tao realm first. He had already stepped into the lower Dominator realm for a long time, but he hadn't broken through because there wasn't a need. The opponents he encountered were either too strong or too weak. Raising his martial realm by 1 level wouldn't have any effect. But since he had the time, raising his martial realm wasn't a bad choice. In addition to the effects of the 3 bottles of Divine Spirit wine, he could instantly increase his strength by 10 times, almost reaching the level of a second phase Dominator. In other words, as Long Yu could break through to the middle Dominator realm, he would even have the strength to fight against Red Oriole. Of course, he wouldn't be Red Oriole's match in the end. After all, Red Oriole was a genuine second phase Dominator, and not an ordinary second phase Dominator either. Her true combat strength was comparable to a 4th or 5th phase Dominator. Chapter 1382. Since he had thought of it, he would do it. Long Yu was waiting for the Heaven Fire Doyen to appear anyway, so he had nothing else to do. Red Oriole also had the Void Nether Dragon Blade to send a message, so Long Yu didn't need to worry about anything. He currently had 10 heaven crystal level creation items on him, all of which were second and third grade. Each of them was worth 4 to 5 million battlefield army merit points. Compared to the 3 bottles of divine wine, the value of these creations was obviously higher. After all, Long Yu had given so many alien demigod corpses to the army on the battlefield, and he had exchanged them for a total of 1,000 heaven crystal level creations. Long Yu took 10 of them for his own cultivation, and Red Oriole also took 10. As members who were going to explore the ancient alien ruins together, it wasn't too much to take this bit of cultivation resources. Little White and Shui Lua wouldn't say anything. If the 10 heaven crystal level creation items were all used to increase his realm, it would be enough for Long Yu to make a leap to a higher ruler. However, if that was the case, the increase in strength would be too great, and even Long Yu wouldn't be able to control it well. It was best to maintain one realm for half a year before continuing to improve. Otherwise, it would be difficult to control the power well, and there would be hidden dangers for the improvement of his martial arts realm in the future. Therefore, Long Yu only took 2 of the creation items, both of which were second-grade heaven crystal level. It was enough for him to improve his martial arts realm. The time he spent cultivating in the twin star turbulence was destined to be the time when Long Yu's strength skyrocketed. This was also because Long Yu had been accumulating for a period of time, and he didn't really need to increase his combat power in the process. Long Yu had already accumulated too many cultivation resources. If he used them all up in one go, even if his martial arts realm only increased by 1 level, his overall strength would be more than 10 times stronger than before. The 2 heaven crystal level creation items were continuously turned into creation power under Long Yu's absorption. They were absorbed into his Dantian and integrated into his small world. The difference between a middle ruler and a lower ruler was that the size of a minor world had to be expanded from 10 billion kilometers to 20 billion kilometers. Long Yu had once attempted to break through to the middle ruler level in the ancient outsider ruins. However, due to some accidents, his progress had been obstructed. Now that he had started again, his small world's territory had already expanded to a circumference of 13 billion kilometers. After absorbing the creation power from the 2 heaven crystal grade creation items, he could easily step into the middle-level ruler realm. To normal martial cultivators, these 2 heaven crystal rank creations were something that could only be discovered by luck. This was because their value was simply too high. They were worth 8 to 9 million battlefield merit points. Even a normal 7th phase dominator would have to work hard for a year or 2 to earn that much, let alone a cultivator like Long Yu. Therefore, no one could improve their martial arts realm as easily as Long Yu. Although it was easy, Long Yu didn't dare to be careless. He progressed steadily and used the creation power to expand his small world. From a circumference of 13 billion kilometers, it quickly increased to 15 billion kilometers, then 17 billion kilometers. At this time, the creation power from the first heaven crystal grade creation item had already been completely absorbed by Long Yu. Immediately after, the creation power from the second heaven crystal grade creation item began to surge into Long Yu's small world under Long Yu's control. As the small world continued to expand, Long Yu also sensed that his basic strength was increasing. Moreover, his basic heaven and earth spiritual qi recovery speed was also slowly increasing. After merging with the Holy Spirit source, the heaven and earth spiritual qi recovery speed in Long Yu's small world increased by 10 times. Now, he had accumulated a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi. He could use it to raise the Devil Dust Heart by several levels. Long Yu still did things wholeheartedly. Now that he was raising his martial arts realm, he didn't think about anything else. After absorbing about 2/3 of the second heaven crystal grade creation item, the territory of his small world had finally expanded to a circumference of 10 billion kilometers. When it reached this threshold, Long Yu felt that his strength had suddenly broken through. From a lower ruler to a middle ruler, he had finally reached this threshold. Ordinary people would need at least 3 to 5 years to reach the middle ruler from a lower ruler to a middle ruler. It wasn't just because of the lack of cultivation resources, but also because of the existence of bottlenecks for others. With all these factors added together, Long Yu's martial arts realm improvement was abnormally easy. Moreover, he basically didn't have any existence of bottleneck. This could be seen from the fact that he didn't have any bottlenecks when breaking through to the ruler mystic realm. Perhaps this was because Long Yu had previously grasped 80% of the 9 Nether imprint, and obtained some power related to the Geo Dragon Emperor's inheritance. As for the higher levels of martial arts realm, Long Yu had some understanding in advance, so he naturally wouldn't encounter any bottleneck. After stepping into the middle ruler realm, the most important change was that Long Yu's basic strength had increased by 3 times. This was different from the previous increase of 3 to 4 times in the Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine characters. Now Long Yu's basic strength had increased. The benefit was that all of Long Yu's strength had increased, including martial techniques like the Wild Battle Celestial Body. Previously, when the Revelation Grade 9 Nether Divine characters increased his strength by 3 to 4 times, it was at most an increase in the power of Long Yu's martial techniques and mystiques that were based on the 9 Nether Divine characters. But now, it was a comprehensive increase, an increase in overall combat strength. Long Yu's entire person became refreshed. He had finally stepped into the middle ruler realm, another step closer to the peak. Although he was still very far from the demigod level, Long Yu's plan was still progressing steadily as he took one step at a time. I haven't finished absorbing this Heaven Crystal grade creation item. Since that's the case, I'll use it to cultivate the pure world body. Long Yu thought to himself, but didn't stop cultivating. It took him 3 days to raise from the lower ruler to the middle ruler realm. It took him more than 10 days to cultivate the pure world body, and he also used up all 8 of the remaining Heaven Crystal level 2nd grade creation items. Clearly, the mystique of the pure world body was more difficult to cultivate than balanced control. It was more difficult to improve, and it required more creation power. The creation power consumed from the 6th level to the peak 9th level was enough for Long Yu to break through to the Great Ruler realm. In comparison, he didn't dare to break through to the Great Ruler realm casually. After all, he would definitely regret breaking through without a good foundation. On the contrary, if he used the creation power to cultivate the pure world body, it would bring great benefits to Long Yu. First, the pure world body increased from the 6th level to the 7th level, and then to the 8th level. This directly increased Long Yu's resistance against mental illusionary control methods by 4 times. If he continued to encounter the mental illusion array set up by the Heaven Fire Doyen, the difficulty for Long Yu would be reduced by 4 times. This was a huge change. Under such circumstances, it was basically impossible for others to use illusions to confuse Long Yu, or use control methods to suppress Long Yu, unless the other party's cultivation was at the 5th rank Great Ruler realm. This was Long Yu's guess. Unless the other party was especially proficient in this aspect, then it was possible that the 2nd or 3rd rank Great Ruler realm could also control Long Yu, or pull him into an illusion. But normally, it was impossible for ordinary cultivators to keep Long Yu here. Moreover, this was the passive effect of the pure world body cultivated to the 8th level. It didn't need Long Yu to control it, and it could be activated naturally. When the pure world body reached the 9th level, the effect was even more heaven-defying. The pure world soul mirror was a derivative of the pure world body cultivated to the 9th level. It was similar to the balanced light that was derived from the peak 9th level of balanced control, and its effect was extremely powerful. The pure world soul mirror's only effect was to reflect. This effect was rarely used by Long Yu, but when it was used, it would be extremely heaven-defying. The explanation was very simple. The pure world body's martial arts effect was to absorb and resist all control methods, mental attacks, illusions, and other such things. The pure world soul mirror reflected all the mental control and illusions that were used on Long Yu back to the caster. The most terrifying thing was that it could actually reflect 10 times more. Heaven-defying, there was nothing else to describe it other than this word. The pure world soul mirror consumed a lot of energy, and if he wanted to use this move, the pure world body would lose its defensive effect for a period of time. But in a crucial battle, as long as the pure world soul mirror was used, it could definitely drag the enemy into a state of eternal damnation. Just think about it, the current Long Yu could withstand all control methods, mental attacks, and illusions from at least a 3rd stage dominator. Even if there was a 7th stage dominator expert, if they wanted to use such methods on Long Yu would directly use the pure world soul mirror to reflect the opponent's power 10 times more. The strength of the opponent's power could even be compared to a demigod realm existence. Although this move couldn't be used continuously, a burst of power at a crucial moment was enough to drag the enemy into hell. Such a terrifying method made Long Yu sigh with emotion. It was worthy of being a martial arts secret technique recorded in the 9 Underworld prison tablet. It made him want to know even more what kind of heaven-defying effect would appear if he cultivated the Devil Dust Heart to the peak of the 9th level. From the cultivation of the first 2 levels, it could be seen that the difficulty of cultivating the Devil Dust Heart was more than 10 times more difficult than cultivating the pure world body. In other words, it would probably take more than 100 2nd-grade Heaven Crystal grade creation items for Long Yu to cultivate the Devil Dust Heart from the 6th level to the 9th level. This number basically accounted for about a third of the creation items obtained from the army on the battlefield. Although there were 1,000 Heaven Crystal grade creation items in that batch, there were only 200 2nd-grade Heaven Crystal grade creation items. The rest were either 3rd grade, 4th grade, or 5th grade creation items. A 2nd grade Heaven Crystal grade creation item contained at least 3 times the creation power of a 3rd grade creation item. What Long Yu was currently holding was the highest 2nd grade creation item. Even in the batch of cultivation resources obtained from the army on the battlefield, there weren't many. Most importantly, those items didn't belong to Long Yu alone, but belonged to the forces of the entire Void Galaxy. Even if they were divided equally among everyone in the ancient foreign race ruins, Long Yu would only be able to obtain no more than 40 2nd-grade Heaven Crystal grade creation items. He was still very far away from raising the Devil Dust Heart to the 9th level. Chapter 1383. After Long Yu cultivated the pure world body to the peak of the 9th level, he breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, there was one less thing that had been weighing on his heart. Then, he temporarily put Devil Dust's heart on hold. Instead, he prepared to deal with another matter. That was the matter with the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race. This matter had been dragged on for a long time. Long Yu should have gone to get the unbounded rank martial skill Jade Slip long ago. It was just that he hadn't done so yet. However, he wasn't worried that the other party wouldn't give it to him. After all, the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race relied on Long Yu's little world to survive. Regarding Long Yu's reasonable request, the other party wouldn't refuse. Moreover, he had been providing a lot of the world spirit energy that had gathered in the little world of Dragon Defense recently to the Bone Race's Vestigial Race, allowing them to develop a little. At the very least, the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race below the ruler's secret realm could absorb this heaven and earth spiritual energy and improve slightly. They were no longer like before, only able to maintain the most basic of survival. This change made the 300,000 members of the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race overjoyed. However, it was precisely at this time that the current leader of the Bone Race, Yu Wufang, became more and more flustered. Because this was the opportunity for development that they had paid a huge price for. If they didn't have the unbounded rank martial skill Jade Slip, what would they do? Would Long Yu still allow them to eat and drink for free and continue living here? Obviously, he wouldn't. Even if he didn't exterminate them, he would drive them out or use them as laborers to do this and that in Long Yu's little world. Therefore, Yu Wufang was deeply worried about this. Recently, Long Yu hadn't appeared in front of them. However, this didn't mean that Long Yu had forgotten about them. Yu Wufang knew that what would come sooner or later. Therefore, when Long Yu entered his little world and came to the living area of the bone race, Yu Wufang was already prepared. He came alone to greet him. As a member of the bone race, Yu Wufang's entire body was made up of bones. He could only send out divine sense, but the divine sense he sent out was something that even Long Yu couldn't accept. This was because the biological difference between them was too great. Moreover, the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade wasn't here, so there was no way for Long Yu and Yu Wufang to communicate. Of course, Yu Wufang was very clear about Long Yu's intentions for coming here. So even if they couldn't communicate, it wouldn't hinder Long Yu from reaching his goal. After discovering that Long Yu didn't bring the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade, Yu Wufang gave up on communicating with Long Yu. He took out a jade slip he had prepared beforehand and threw it over to Long Yu. Long Yu caught it and looked at it. It was indeed a high-grade, unbounded rank martial skill that could only be cultivated by humans. It was called the Unbounded Grasp. He didn't know what effect it had, but as a high-grade unbounded rank martial skill, it was on the same level as Warmonger's celestial body. If he could cultivate it to a higher level, it would definitely be very powerful. Unbounded rank martial skills were extremely precious resources, whether it was in the human race or the demon race. Even mid-grade or low-grade unbounded rank martial skills were extremely precious. In the army, only experts who had made outstanding contributions were qualified to obtain cultivation jade slip. In all of the human and demon territories, the number of cultivators who could cultivate unbounded rank martial skills was less than 1 in 100 billion. It should be noted that even Red Oriole, the princess of the Blood Demon clan, had never cultivated an unbounded level martial technique. Even the Dragon Emperor of the Nine Abyss had only cultivated one unbounded level martial technique. Of course, the unbounded rank martial skill that the Juyo Dragon Emperor had cultivated couldn't be low-grade, mid-grade, or high-grade. It was more likely to be supreme-grade or supreme-grade. But now it was impossible to verify. After all of the Juyo Dragon Emperor's contemporaries were dead. As for the martial skill that the Juyo Dragon Emperor had cultivated, there were no legacies left. No matter what martial skill it was, the most important thing was to be proficient in it. Otherwise, it would be useless no matter how much you cultivated. For example, Long Yu had learned a variety of skills, but when it came to a critical moment, there were only a few that could be used. I hope the unbounded grasp won't disappoint me, Long Yu thought to himself. Then, he took the jade slip and left the living area of the Bone Clan. He found a secluded spot in his minor world and prepared to spend the next 2 months researching the high-grade unbounded rank martial skill, the unbounded grasp, and also cultivating the devil dust heart. The spirit energy of heaven and earth that had been accumulating for more than a month was very abundant. If Long Yu cultivated the devil dust heart, he would probably be able to advance 2 or 3 levels. As for the specifics, he would have to try it out. Long Yu first studied the jade slip of the limitless grasp and discovered that it was a control technique. Moreover, it seemed to be very useful. The boundless grasp is able to ignore the boundaries of space and directly grab the opponent to one's side. It's similar to a telekinesis effect. If the opponent wants to escape, I can easily pull them back with this move. Long Yu looked at the introduction of the high-grade unbounded grasp and realized that it was a technique for chasing and killing. However, it was obvious that there was more to it than that. When the limitless grasp was cultivated to the large success realm, once the opponent was captured, The flow of energy within the opponent's body would be sealed for a short period of time. When the power of the unbounded grasp was sealed, no matter what skills or techniques the opponent used, their speed would be reduced by at least 99%. In other words, during the short period of a few breaths, the opponent would be unable to fight back. Unless, of course, the opponent was like Long Yu and cultivated a high-level worldly purity body, or had a secret martial skill or martial skill with similar effects. If the unbounded grasp was cultivated to a higher level, it would have even stronger effects. In short, it was a very useful martial skill that consumed very little energy. There was absolutely no harm in cultivating it. With that thought in mind, Long Yu began to study the unbounded grasp jade slip. It was worth mentioning that the unbounded grasp didn't require a specific type of divine character to be used. No matter what type of power was used, the divine character would have its own effects. For example, Long Yu's compatibility with the shadow-type divine character had reached the peak of the 12th level, and it naturally had a strong corrosive effect. As long as Long Yu used any shadow-type divine character to use the unbounded grasp, it would have a corrosive effect. Control, corrosion, weakening. All sorts of disgusting effects could make any opponent sick. Even if it was someone with combat strength similar to Long Yu, if they were caught off guard, it would be very uncomfortable. In fact, they might even be at a disadvantage and be killed by Long Yu. I can't see the later effects from the jade slip. I'll have to cultivate it first. Long Yu began to deeply understand this martial skill, and then began to comprehend and cultivate it. Time passed, and the nether void dragon blade soon returned to Long Yu's side. However, Long Yu didn't mind. He let little void play on its own. As for himself, he immersed himself in the cultivation of the unbounded grasp martial skill. He had learned many moves before, but very few of them had reached a higher level. That was because his cultivation was more mixed, and he wasn't proficient in any martial skill. Among them, the battle lunatic celestial body could only be comprehended in a real battle. Since Long Yu didn't have much opportunity to cultivate it, he could only let nature take its course. Apart from the battle lunatic celestial body, none of the other martial skills were unbounded martial skills. Therefore, Long Yu didn't have the time to spend on them. Only the space-severing fatal blow was left. Due to its unique characteristics, Long Yu would occasionally use it. As for the other martial skills, he rarely used them. In many battles, Long Yu only needed to use his innate mystiques, the Nether Void Dragon Blade, and the Ancient Dragon Bone Pagoda, which were two top-grade unbounded combat weapons, and that was enough. Martial skills were rarely used before reaching a higher level of the unbounded grasp. Now that he had acquired a very useful high-grade unbounded martial skill, the unbounded grasp, it was only natural that Long Yu would do his best to gain enlightenment from it. Furthermore, it wouldn't be as troublesome as battle heavenly bodies. As long as he used this move in more battles, as long as his proficiency increased, and he had enough comprehension, it would naturally continue to improve. It was much more convenient than the battle lunatic celestial body. In fact, Long Yu could even use the method he used in the Five Emperors illusion realm, and use the 1,000-layer illusions to quickly improve his martial skills. Of course, using this method to improve the unbounded grasp wouldn't be as heaven-defying, but it would still speed up Long Yu's cultivation of the move, and allow Long Yu to comprehend it to a higher level. For the next 2 months, Long Yu did not do anything else. He spent all his time practicing the limitless grip. As for his first opponent, it was the Nether Void Dragon Blade. Long Yu was under a lot of pressure when he had Little Void fight him. After all, the Nether Void Dragon Blade was a special God-grade absolute beginning weapon, and it was filled with water-type absolute beginning power. Furthermore, its void-piercing and void-burial techniques were terrifying. As for Long Yu, he only used the path of the 9 underworlds and the unbounded grasp martial skills. Among them, The path of 9 underworld divine ability could disintegrate all of the water element power released by the nether dragon blade. Even though it couldn't completely disintegrate it, it could still weaken a lot of the power of the nether burial technique so that he wouldn't be in life-threatening danger. When Long Yu first learned the unbounded grasp and used it against the nether void dragon blade, it had basically no effect, and he couldn't pull her over. But when Long Yu improved the unbounded grasp to minor success, the results finally showed. Chapter 1384. Long Yu's boundless grasp, which had reached the minor mastery realm, could directly pull the nether void dragon blade over from afar and cause it to enter a state where its power was sealed. This state was effective against the nether void dragon blade, let alone against other cultivators. Although it was only a breath's time, in a battle at Long Yu's level, a breath's time was enough for him to do many things, and it was enough to determine his victory in the battle. In the first 7 days, Long Yu had been fighting the nether void dragon blade. Although the nether void dragon blade wasn't a cultivator, and was only at the divine grade absolute beginning level, it was still able to improve Long Yu a little. At this moment, Long Yu felt that it was a pity. If the White Feather Beast clan's quasi-heavenly lightning was still in his little world, he would be able to exchange pointers with quasi-heavenly lightning. After all, quasi-heavenly lightning was in existence in the sovereign realm. Moreover, heavenly thunder was at the 3rd stage Great Dominator realm, and his overall strength shouldn't be much stronger than Long Yu's. Sparring with him would be very effective. Only with pressure would there be progress. Now that Long Yu was fighting the nether void dragon blade, on one hand, she wasn't a cultivator, and on the other, she and Long Yu were mentally connected. Wherever the nether void dragon blade wanted to go, Long Yu would be able to prepare in advance, and vice versa, so there was no point in fighting like this, and this kind of mental connection couldn't be blocked. When Long Yu and the nether void dragon blade reached the unparalleled level, and when the nether void dragon blade gave birth to the spiritual sense little void, it was destined that Long Yu and her could no longer be separated. After a week of sparring, Long Yu had cultivated the limitless grasp to the small success level, and was able to accurately deal with little void. Every time he used the limitless grasp, the nether void dragon blade would be grabbed by him, and then its power would be sealed, unable to escape. Moreover, when the nether void dragon blade used void burial on Long Yu, it would be directly disintegrated by Long Yu's path of 9 underworlds, which made the nether void dragon blade very puzzled. I'm done. You want to practice martial arts, but since there isn't an opponent on the same level as you, why don't you suppress your cultivation and find someone in your small world to spar with? It's just to practice martial arts proficiency. It has nothing to do with your martial Tao realm. Little Void Dragon Void was bullied to the end, and finally proposed an idea. This thought made Long Yu's eyes light up. However, if it was just to practice martial arts, why did he have to find an opponent who was on the same level as him? Since there were no opponents on the same level as him in the small world, he would suppress his cultivation to the same level as his opponent, and then fight with his opponent. Such a simple logic, Long Yu had never thought of it before. The key was that he had always been advancing towards a higher realm of martial arts, and had never looked back to the past. Now that the idea of the Netherworld Void Dragon Blade popped up, Long Yu was reminded of something. Although it was important to blindly move forward, if it was to cultivate a martial skill, there was no need to look for an evenly matched opponent. Since that was the case, Long Yu finally had a better way to cultivate the limitless grasp. Thank you, little Void Dragon Void. In this case, I'll suppress my cultivation to the Emperor Path secret realm and find an opponent in the new martial world. Long Yu laughed heartily. It had been a long time since he felt this way. He didn't expect that it was inspired by his battle weapon. But now, to Long Yu, the Void Spirit Dragon Blade and Little Void were definitely not as simple as his battle weapons. He had already seen her as his friend, an extremely close friend, the kind of friend who could go through thick and thin with him through thick and thin. Go, I'll guard outside for you. Little Void was also very happy that she could think of a way for Long Yu. But in this situation, she couldn't follow Long Yu back to the new martial world. Because Long Yu might need a long time to practice, Little Void had to guard against other dangers for Long Yu in the double star turbulence. Now, although the power in the center of the double star turbulence was calm and stable, it might become chaotic at any time. And what Long Yu left outside was only the 9 Underworlds tablet. Once the 9 Underworlds tablet was stimulated and exploded, the situation would be very bad. Therefore, Nether Void Dragon Blade stayed outside to keep watch. Because she was connected with Long Yu's mind, as long as something happened outside, Long Yu would know immediately. This was very convenient. Of course, the mental connection between Long Yu and Nether Void Dragon Blade was also limited by distance. If they were too far apart, they still wouldn't be able to clearly sense each other's thoughts. For example, when Nether Void Dragon Blade left the double star turbulence and went near the Dragon and Phoenix stars to deliver a message to Red Oriole and Moonsong, Long Yu couldn't really sense Nether Void Dragon Blade's existence at that time. However, when Long Yu was in his own small world and the Netherworld Dragon Blade was outside, it was too easy for them to sense each other's presence in such a situation. Just like that, Long Yu had Little Void stand guard outside, while he himself returned to his own little world and descended into the new martial world. If I remember correctly, there are quite a few familiar faces in this new martial world. I haven't seen some of them for a long time, so it's quite interesting for them to come back and train. Long Yu thought to himself. Of course, he wouldn't appear with his original appearance. If he did, everyone in the new martial world would know that the entire world belonged to him. Who would want to spar with him? He disguised himself as a tall and thin young man, still wearing a black short-sleeved shirt. Without alerting anyone, he returned to the new martial world. The new martial world was a new world that Red Oriole had modeled after the Divine Battle World. Its territory was so vast that it even surpassed the original Divine Battle World, but it was missing 108,000 floating islands. In the new martial world, there were still organizations like the Tianqin Dynasty, the North Snow Dynasty, and the Holy City of the 5 Emperors, which used to be in the Netherworld realm. However, the original 6 sects and 10 kingdoms had changed a little. These changes were natural and had nothing to do with Long Yu. Long Yu couldn't be bothered to think about these things. The organization changes in the new martial world had no effect on Long Yu. After all, they were no longer on the same level. All he needed to know was that he had to suppress his cultivation to a certain level and find some suitable opponent. In the new martial world, the strongest is the current Cloud Emperor, who has reached the level of the 3-star Emperor. Others who can reach the level of Emperor are rare. Most of them are in the King Realm, Emperor Realm, and Emperor Realm. Long Yu pondered in his heart. He was thinking about which level of cultivation he should suppress. Below the King Path Secret Realm, the Divine Ability Secret Realm didn't even have a complete set of 7 mystic abilities. Long Yu definitely wouldn't consider finding someone too weak as an opponent. In that case, I'll suppress my cultivation to the King Realm. Long Yu recalled that a long time ago, he had participated in the strongest King Realm competition, as well as the strongest Emperor Realm competition. This kind of competition was quite intense, and it could also achieve the effect of training his martial skills. As for the illusion world of the 5 Emperors, it still existed. It was created by Red Oriole, but it wouldn't be of much help to Long Yu's cultivation of high-grade unending realm martial skills. With a shake of his body, Long Yu's cultivation was suppressed to the King Path Secret Realm. His basic strength dropped by more than 1,000 times, and he wasn't used to it. From the King Realm to the Emperor Realm, then the Emperor Realm, and then the 7-star Emperor Secret Realm to the Sovereign Realm, there were more than 10 minor realms. Each minor realm would increase one's basic strength by 2 or 3 times. Long Yu couldn't get used to suppressing his strength to the early king realm all of a sudden. It was like an ordinary person who could lift a boulder, but suddenly became crippled. He couldn't even pick up a small pebble. It was a very similar feeling. It was precisely because of this that Long Yu had not thought of such a method in the beginning. It was simply too unpleasant. In a situation where all of his power was suppressed, Long Yu felt as if he was a cripple. In fact, it wasn't that serious. It was just that the drop in strength was a very stifling feeling. Moreover, he had suppressed his cultivation base to that of an early-stage king realm ruler. The difference in cultivation base was simply too great. Most people probably wouldn't be able to do this. This made Long Yu think of the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor. The last time he saw the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor on the battlefield of the Ice God clan, he was already a great sovereign realm expert. Long Yu had reason to believe that the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor, who was still in the Nine Serenities realm, was not only in the Emperor realm, but also in the Great Sovereign realm. Therefore, when the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor was in the Nine Serenities realm, he must have suppressed his cultivation. Because of this, Long Yu couldn't hurt the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor in the battle of the strongest Emperor realm. Because the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor's cultivation was suppressed, his physical body was still in the Sovereign Secret Realm, or even the Great Sovereign Realm. Does the Ascetic Walker Alliance use this method to train themselves? When Long Yu thought of this, he was a little puzzled. The Bitter Cultivators Alliance was really strange. However, to be honest, there were times when training in such a way would have a miraculous effect on certain things. At the very least, Long Yu recalled that when he had fought against the Sky Prison Thunder Emperor, he had definitely benefited the Sky Prison Thunder Emperor greatly. After all, Long Yu had been able to force the Sky Prison Thunder Emperor, who had suppressed his cultivation base, to be defeated. This was not something that ordinary people could do. Under great pressure, cultivators would often be able to unleash their full potential. The Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor might have improved a lot after the battle of the strongest Emperor realm. It was just that Long Yu didn't know. I'll get used to my current strength first. Then I'll start looking for people to fight. The Boundless Grasp is a high-grade unending level martial skill. It's a bit of a bully in the new martial world. Long Yu thought like this in his heart, but did not have the slightest bit of hesitation, and directly set off to look for them. Chapter 1385. Long Yu returned to the new martial world and suppressed his cultivation to the early stage of the King realm. Then, he walked around the North Snow Empire. After all, he was quite familiar with the North Snow Empire. It was a good place to start his journey. Of course, the current North Snow Empire was not in a remote part of the new martial world, but in the sky above the holy city of the Five Emperors. It was in the center of the entire new martial world. To the North Snow Empire, this was an extremely good condition for development. It was just as Long Yu had seen. The current North Snow Empire had already become an existence that surpassed worldly countries. The conditions for cultivation were excellent. The population was flourishing and geniuses were everywhere. The overall strength had even surpassed the 6 sects and 10 countries. In the current new martial world, apart from the holy city of the Five Emperors, the North Snow Empire had already become another holy land for cultivation. Everyone yearned to come here to cultivate. Unfortunately, the conditions to enter the North Snow Empire were not low. Foreign cultivators had to at least reach the King Path secret realm to be qualified to enter the North Snow Empire. After all, the North Snow Empire's position was special. It was impossible for everyone to come and go as they pleased. Right now, if Long Yu wanted to enter the North Snow Empire, it would be a very easy thing. No one would be able to find out and he would be able to sneak in easily. However, this was not what he wanted. His main purpose in coming to the new martial world was to gain experience. As for the qualification test to enter the North Snow Empire, it was quite a good training for him. He needed to go through 3 consecutive trials. Only by passing the 3 trials would he have the right to enter the North Snow Empire. The number of people who signed up to participate in the qualification test of the North Snow Empire was like a school of carps in the river. The tall and skinny young man that Long Yu had transformed into was queuing at the back. However, there were also many people from the North Snow Empire who came to take the test, so he did not have to queue for long. After about 6 hours, it was Long Yu's turn. Someone came over and brought Long Yu to an independent space. Name: Mountain Ghost. Martial Path Realm. Early Stage King Realm. You need to go through 3 battles in a row to be qualified to enter the North Snow Empire, the examiner said expressionlessly. He then asked Long Yu to head to the center of the independent space and prepare for battle. The person in charge of the examination was only at the intermediate stage of the King Realm, but he could tell that this fellow was most likely a native cultivator of the North Snow Empire, which was why he could be the person in charge of the examination. There was no way to stop this situation. After all, the North Snow Empire was such a large place. When the entire North Snow Empire rose up, there would definitely be some people who would use various methods to allow the people around them to live better lives so that they could obtain even more cultivation resources. The reward for the person in charge of the assessment should be quite high, but all of this had nothing to do with Long Yu. He could easily decide how the North Snow Empire would develop in the future, but this should not be up to him to decide. He only needed to properly train himself. Long Yu nodded and walked to the center of the stage, preparing for the first battle without any pressure in his heart. This caused many of the examiners in the surroundings to be slightly curious. They'd seen too many people that had come to take the test, and it was very natural for some advanced stage King Realm geniuses to be unnervous. However, this kid that was only at the initial stage of the King Realm was actually so composed. Is his mental state really that good? Or could it be that this kid was confident that he could pass the assessment and enter the North Snow Empire? Many people shook their heads. Although the basic requirement for the assessment of the North Snow Empire was to be at the initial stage of the King Realm, whether an early-stage King Realm cultivator could pass the assessment was another matter. Simply put, it was extremely difficult for an early-stage King Realm cultivator to pass the assessment and enter the North Snow Empire. Long Yu only waited for a while before he saw a young swordsman in a white robe walk in front of him, and cast a haughty glance at Long Yu. This person should be from the North Snow Empire. He was very young, probably in his 20s. Being able to reach the initial stage King Realm, he was indeed not weak. The tall and skinny young man that Long Yu had transformed into seemed to be in his 30s, and he looked quite similar to the other people that had come to participate in the assessment of the North Snow Empire. This naturally made the young man in front of him feel arrogant. Quickly make your move. After I finish you, there will be another one. My mission today is to defeat 10 people, and then I can report back. The young man cast a contemptuous glance at Long Yu and spoke arrogantly. He did not even take out the long sword hanging on his waist. Many people around cast envious glances at the young man. Obviously, this young man's identity was not ordinary. Being able to enter the King Path secret realm before the age of 20 was considered quite good in the current Northern Snow Empire. However, Long Yu did not care about the young man's appearance at all, nor did he care about what the people around him thought. He only smiled faintly and said, "I hope you will not disappoint me." After saying this, he raised his hand, and Jiu Yu divine characters rapidly emerged from the tip of his finger. They quickly condensed into a Jiu Yu hand in midair, and the white bone arm pierced through the void, directly grabbing at the young man. It was a simple innate magic skill. Long Yu did not use any fancy moves, because in his eyes, the young man was too weak. Under the circumstances that Long Yu had suppressed his cultivation level, it was impossible for someone of the same cultivation level as him to be a match for him. Long Yu had come here to participate in the assessment not for the first battle, but for the third battle. So, he could not spend too much time on the first battle. When Long Yu executed the Jiu hand, the young man immediately seemed as if he was facing a formidable enemy because he could sense the formidable power contained in the white bone arm. Long Yu had already merged with the shadow attribute divine characters to the 12th level, so any technique that he executed with the Jiu divine characters would carry a natural corrosive force. Besides that, Long Yu's magic skill was already an emperor magic skill, and the increase in its power was far beyond the imagination of cultivators at the beginner king stage. Even though Long Yu had suppressed his cultivation level to the beginner king stage, a mere beginner king stage opponent still could not threaten him. As soon as the Jiu hand was executed, the atmosphere in the surroundings had changed completely. Everyone had solemn expressions on their faces, and even the expression of the person in charge of the assessment at the intermediate stage of the king stage had changed drastically. Because he sensed the might contained within this attack, and it was something he was completely unable to resist. In this way, there was no need to mention the young man at the beginner king stage. However, the young man gritted his teeth and decided to give it a try. After all, he was a genius, so how could he possibly flee without putting up a fight? Rock Pillar. The young man raised his hand and released an ancient combat weapon. This ancient combat weapon was his final trump card, and it could be considered as a very good combat weapon even in the North Snow Empire. Now that he was facing Long Yu's Jiu hand, this fellow directly utilized his trump card. A crystalline rock pillar suddenly enlarged, and it forcefully blocked the young man's path before sweeping towards the Jiu hand. The rock pillar arrived with a loud bang and collided with the Jiu hand. Long Yu had already comprehended 60% of the revelation-grade divine text of Jiu hand, and it directly corroded the Jiu hand. In almost an instant, the corrosive power of the divine text of Jiu hand had completely destroyed the rock pillar. Moreover, the Jiu hand continued moving forward, and without any hesitation, it grabbed the young man and threw him into the distance. Next, Long Yu watched the young man fall to the ground and faint, so he did not pay any more attention to him. Instead, he indifferently reminded the person in charge of the assessment behind him. The situation had changed too quickly. Only now did the person in charge of the assessment, as well as the surrounding spectators, react. In the blink of an eye, the genius of the North Snow Empire that they were so proud of had been defeated in a single move by someone. It should be known that this young man was definitely not a weakling. At the beginner king stage, he could already hang on and beat up most of his opponent. However, now that he had encountered this tall and skinny young man, he was actually unable to withstand a single move. Furthermore, even the ancient combat weapon, the stony crystal pillar, was destroyed. This was unbelievable. To the surrounding onlookers, this battle was too shocking. How to deal with Long Yu had already become a very big problem. However, to Long Yu, this was just a small fight. He knew that he would cause some commotion, but he did not expect that the young man he had defeated would have some background. This matter would probably not end so easily. In the second battle, a middle-aged man in the intermediate king stage stepped up. The assessment of the North Snow Empire did not require the participants to win all 3 battles consecutively. Instead, it was to let the person in charge of the assessment see the performance of the participants. After all, the participants of the assessment were all relatively strong existences in the North Snow Empire. Moreover, the second battle was against a middle-stage king stage, while the third battle was against a late-stage king stage. For ordinary cultivators, it was impossible for them to be defeated. Therefore, whether one could join the North Snow Empire or not depended entirely on the subjective evaluation of the participants by the person in charge of the assessment. Even if some people lost, as long as the person in charge of the assessment gave them a high evaluation, they could still join the North Snow Empire. On the contrary, even if some people defeated their opponents, as long as the person in charge of the assessment rejected them, they would not be qualified to join the North Snow Empire. Because of this, the person in charge of the assessment had such great power, which made many people envious. Only those who had connections could become the person in charge of the assessment. Be careful. The middle-aged man in the second battle was in the intermediate king stage. He looked at Long Yu with a solemn expression and was very nervous. Although his martial arts realm was one level higher than Long Yu's hand of 9 serenities just now was already very powerful. He imagined that if he was in Long Yu's position, it would also be extremely difficult for him to resist this move of Long Yu. However, fleeing without fighting was not his style. Therefore, when he encountered an expert, he also hoped that he could gain some benefits from this battle, whether it be experience or enlightenment. After all, he was a middle-aged man, not as aggressive as the young man just now. His character and behavior were much more mature. At least, Long Yu did not have any bad feelings towards him. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.